Struggling to get your business online? At Domains2U, we make it easy with fast domain registration, powerful web hosting, and top-tier security solutions. Our hosting solutions ensure speed, security, and reliability with 99.9% uptime and daily backups. Find the perfect domain name and get online in minutes. Get started today at domains2u.com.au.
Good evening, race fans. Welcome back. It is time once again for GT3 action. It's been far too long between drinks here, but we are back into it tonight. The opening round of the Domains2U MC Motorsport GT3 Championship here at the iconic Imola. I'm doing my best not to butcher the Italian, so I won't even try the Autodromo pronunciation, but we begin here, of course, tonight at one of the most historic and challenging circuits on the calendar, with tight chicanes, fast straights, and of course elevation changes to test the GT3 machines and of course their drivers. Our brand new season lies ahead. Who will set the tone tonight and take the very first victory? Buckle up, make sure you have a drink in hand. The action starts right now, and on behalf of everyone at the Simple Racing broadcast team, my name is Jared Cole and we would love to welcome you to the opening round here tonight. The Domains2U GT3 Championship getting underway this evening, and I'm joined in the booth by none other than Nick Patasso. Nick, welcome back to the comms booth.
Yes, good evening, Joe. Good evening, viewers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to what is the most iconic and thrilling tracks in motorsport. The legendary, I'll say all the Italian stuff for you, Jared. Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari, better known as Imola. Nestled in the hills of Italy, this circuit is steeped in history, and today it stages for some heart-stopping GT3 action with its combination of fast straights, technical corners, dramatic elevation changes. Imola offers a real test for both car and the drivers here tonight. From the high speeds of Acqua Minerale to the challenging Variante Alta, it's a track that is demanding precision, bravery, and a little bit of Italian flair, as we see a few Ferraris on track as well. It's a true test of speed and strategy tonight. With the standing start today, you can expect fireworks from the very first moment. And as we have all the info here, Jared, I'll leave it up to you to give us a breakdown of what we have in store for tonight's action.
And we couldn't have asked for better weather to kick off the season either. Of course, MC Motorsport, famous or infamous, I suppose, depending on your point of view, for always trying to replicate the real-world weather at any of the tracks we visit. And it is a beautiful 19 degrees air temperature at Imola right now. The track temperature 26 degrees, nice and cool. So the drivers will have to put a little bit of work in to get those tyre temperatures up, but we shouldn't see too much degradation on track here tonight. Just under 5 kilometers per lap, and this evening race 1 will be 15 laps, an all-out sprint, as we take a field of, I believe we have 45 drivers. Last I checked, might have snuck a 46th in there. It's going to be an absolutely bonkers night, a completely full field tonight. We'll get through race 1 and then move into race 2, 30 laps here with a reverse top 10 grid. It's set for an absolutely stunning night tonight, isn't it, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. And Imola is probably one of my favorite. I did just mention Monza, obviously another favorite track amongst the tifosi Italian fans, but Imola always has a bit of proud history to back it up. Obviously, with the history, it's such a challenging motorsport circuit. It picked and located in the picturesque Italian countryside just outside Bologna. It's such a legendary circuit that is often revered for its combination of technical corners, fast straight, the elevation changes, as I've mentioned. It's a place that demands, bravery and precision in equal measures because it is such a tight track. It's kind of like what we can call the Monaco of race circuits because it's very hard to get overtakes done. Everything's going to be all set in stone in qualifying, and then even the first race, the first 15 laps of the session, it's going to really spice up the field from the fast drivers to the slow drivers, and then we also have the reverse top 10 in the grid, so that could also throw a bit of elements of surprise in race 2. But a lot has changed since season 1 when I first made my commentary debut for MC Motorsports, and there's a lot of I will say some drastic changes from what I saw in from season 1 to season 3. So a lot of fine tweaking amongst the MC Motorsports admin team to have made season 3 what is going to be an exceptional season with 46 drivers registered and raring to go here in the countryside of Imola.
Absolutely. It's going to be a huge season, no doubt. Some of the races on the calendar ahead are just going to be it's got to be some of the best racing, I think, that we're going to have the privilege to call this season, I reckon, Nick. And for me, I can't think of a better place to start than Imola. It's such a famous track. It's got so much history to it, and really, it's going to be a lovely warm up for what does lie in store with some of the venues that we're going to be visiting this season. You look ahead to places like Spa, of course, Daytona. We've got Montreal, Circuit du Charles, Villeneuve. I've got to get my international pronunciation down. I really do. We've got Watkins Glen on the calendar. We've got Circuit Zolder, and of course there is a drivers' vote track coming up to finish the season. So we'll keep you posted on what happens there. Of course, we couldn't have the season happening without the support of all of our amazing sponsors this season. So a massive shout out, of course, to Domains2U.com.au, our primary sponsor. Also, iRap Designs, Everything Simulated, Sixpence Coffee, and Maximum Effort Racing, all chipping in to make this all happen for this season. And without any further ado, Nick, I think it's time for us to go and check out the action. Qualifying is underway, so let's head down to the track and let's see what's going on as the drivers are out there taking on the Imola circuit. And we'll go down, of course, to last season's champion. This is Jeremy Washington. The number one this season belongs to him. And he is out there on track putting in his best. We take a look at where we're at right now in terms of qualifying times, and I tell you what, there is not much in it here tonight. So far, the top 20 separated by less than a second around Imola. Jeremy Washington currently sitting in P2 as he goes out to try and improve that.
Absolutely, and obviously you mentioned yourself, Imola being a very great track to have a bit of a proving ground as we see the reigning defending champion come into the pit lane for a change of tyres. But you're definitely right about the characteristics of Imola. It's such a perfectly suited to the demands of GT3 racing. The balance of high speed, technical sections, all ideal for the agility and downforce of these cars. As we see some drivers coming into the pit lane to put on a fresh set of boots to go for that last lap dash for the qualifying phase. The power to weight ratio allows them to make most of the high speed straights with the ability to manage aerodynamic downforce, allowing them to stay stable through these technical sections, as we are seeing in car 53 with Nathan Bowman in the Porsche 992 GT3 as he goes up towards the end of Sector 1, approaching Sector 2. It's a very strong start there, sitting down in P10. Had a very good run in recent championships in the GT3 class, so it'll be good to see where he ends up as he just has a moment there through qualifying, drifts the car, nearly saves it with a half spin there. Well, great car control by the 53, but that's going to be his session done before he can get it back into the pit lane. I'm not so sure how long we've got till the end of qualifying there, Jared, but I'm sure these guys are going to start racking up some fast lap times pretty soon.
Absolutely, and look, we do still have plenty of time up our sleeves, so these guys will be going back out and giving it another crack, I'm sure. We've got, 15 minutes of open qualifying, so he's got about 5 minutes left before the session's over, which is enough to put in, another couple of laps perhaps. We check out Mitch Curry on his way around in the Mustang this time. Last season in the Porsche, he's made the move across, and of course the brand new livery to go along with it. All of the sponsors stepping up and getting their names all over that very, very tidy livery. And we'll see how he goes. Look, used to seeing Mitch up the front end of the pack, and no change so far, up in 16th at the moment, which doesn't sound like the front end of the pack, but when you've got a pack of now 43, 44 drivers, I'm seeing that have signed up here. It's a huge field, absolutely huge.
Absolutely huge, and he's only 8/10 behind Daniel Bolton's fastest lap with a 1:41.994. So such a close field, as you mentioned. The top 20, or literally the top 22, separated by underneath a second. So that just shows how competitive this season's going to be, especially with a whole hive mixed variety of cars. We have the Acura NSX, we have the McLaren 720, we also have the Porsche 992, the Ford Mustang, and a couple of Mercedes-Benz as well, with Scott Stevens down in 22nd, make that 23rd. As we've seen, Simon Capelet in the Porsche make a position change, up in towards 17th place. So quite a high variety of cars that we have here tonight, and it looks like, I'm not so sure actually, I did try to mention in the top of the broadcast that there were going to be any Ferrari Tifosi fans, but I'm not registering any Ferraris at the moment in this season.
It's interesting, isn't it? We've got such a good representation of so many different cars and not a single Ferrari in the field. You wouldn't pick it, would you?
Yeah, very strange. I would not have picked that.
That's really interesting.
From what I remember in Season 1, where the first Season 1 champion in Miles Bond, he was running in the Ferrari 296, and that was certainly a very strong dominant car alongside the Porsche 992. So I would have expected the car to be high up there, but obviously through recent testing that the fellas have done through MC Motorsport through their own time in their respective camps, obviously the Ferrari 296 was definitely not a choice of car, a choice of weapon to tackle Season 3 with the strong track list as well. Maybe just doesn't suit the layouts that we have on offer in Season 3, but also it maybe just doesn't offer so much on tyre wear, fuel economy, or long distance racing that we have.
Yeah, possibly. It's really unusual though. Like, we've got a field that is, the top half, you can see in Tony Tower, dominated by the Porsches. Always a favourite here, of course, with the MC Motorsport crew, and certainly a lot of the new names that we're seeing joining us. Josh Marsh on the screen right now, new to the MC Motorsport stable of drivers, as is Mick Polly from Southern Cross Racing, a name that is more synonymous with P8 Supercar racing than it is with GT3s. But you never know where you can end up. But to see no Ferraris on the grid is honestly probably the surprise of the night for me. Because of course, once these drivers lock in their choice of car this evening, that is it. That is what they're racing for the rest of the season. Of course, the ADHD boys are back. Ryan Palmer on your screen right now. Look, I'll be honest, the livery looks fantastic, but it's so subdued compared to what we've been used to seeing from the ADHD boys. But who knows, maybe this new professional look is something that we'll see translate to some more professional racecraft on track this season. I don't know about that, Nick. Maybe it's a big ask. But plenty
absolutely. Well, we're definitely some good friends. Definitely good friends with Ryan Palmer and Josh Harris, the leading members of ADHD as well. But sitting down in 20th, they definitely thought about taking a bit of a backward step from all the banter and all the sarcasm about running a Holden Racing Team livery on a Ford Mustang. Seemed to upset so many drivers over the past few months, but now it looks like like they've just sacked their livery designer and they said, you know what, we are going to take it seriously this time around, and we're going to put our best foot forward, and we're going to try and wow the crowd with just not only with our livery but with our pace as well. And setting up in 21st at the moment, and Josh Harris down in 29th. So both drivers inside the top 30 at the moment. But it looks like qualifying is set and stone. That is the end of the session. And man, my goodness, that goes quickly as we're about to reveal who was the man that starts on pole position. It is Daniel Poulton. So the man that was leading the charge early on, set that time quite early there, Jared. And it hasn't really been challenged so far. Only Jeremy Washington 0.019, then Reese Wakefield. So the top three, kind of like what we saw in the Japan Grand Prix in the Formula One most recently. The top three are only separated by 3/100ths of a second. That close.
Not much in it at all this evening, and we will be getting underway shortly, I am sure, as we wait for the drivers to grid up here. So we'll run through it quickly as they all jump into their vehicles. Danny P, crowd favourite, as he is, of course, self-proclaimed in P1 tonight alongside our last season's champion, Jeremy Washington. Reese Wakefield and Daniel McCrone behind them, then Aidan Williams and Josh Marsh ahead of Josh Benno and Mick Polly. Patrick Frame and Mitch Curry rounding out your top 10 ahead of Lachlan Burke and Nathan Bowman. Further back through the field, James Lawrence and Dean Jacobson line up on row 7 ahead of Aaron Schotter and Liam Jensen. Then Wiley Blair and James Bunker behind them, while Aaron Gilbert and Simon Caplet just sneak into the top 20. Henry King and Ryan Palmer next in line ahead of Brad Cooper and Dean Powell. Then Luke Hyden and Scott Stevens. James Salhani, another new name to the season, alongside Aaron James. Josh Harris and Dan Moko ahead of Chris Bleakley and Dylan Thomas. Lee Keldulis ahead of Jamie Taylor ahead of Daniel Harrod and Luke Patton. Then Ronald Long and Charlie Milliken with Ian Ward and Caleb Thompson. Trev Mortimer and Bradley Minshall ahead of Nick Bidesdale and Martin Lipsky. And then Nathan Allen and Pete Manette are your safety car drivers for this evening. And we are getting ready to go racing here. The first round of GT3 Championship, Domains2U GT3 Championship here with MC Motorsport, just about to get underway as the last of the drivers grid up. We are getting set to go under starters orders, and I cannot wait, Nick, to see what this race brings. It is going to be an absolute cracker, I am sure.
Absolutely, it's going to be the run that goes down towards turn 1, especially going to very onto Tamburello. As we see those lights about to go out, we have 5 red lights, a standing start, and we are green flag racing. A great start there by Daniel Poulton, leading the way. A horrible start there by Jeremy Washington, losing a couple of positions. The defending champion dropping well back the orders. An Acura 1, 2 and 3 NSX up the front row with Jeremy Washington in 4th, Aidan Williams in 5th. Then Josh Bernard's actually made a couple of positions there, and Josh Marsh has just gone past. So looks to be quite even. Not too many major accidents happening at the moment. Just a lot of shuffling around the moment. It's the top 3 Acuras, Danny P and Daniel Poulton, Reese Wakefield and Daniel McCorum up in 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Jeremy Washington, the defending champion of Season 2, running the number 1 for the first time in MC Motorsport history. It's running up nicely into P4, right tucked underneath that rear wing of the 3rd place driver.
As we already have the first driver to go around. The iRap Designs replay showing that he's just lost it on those cold tyres. Thankfully not too much damage done at this point. So we get back to the action, and look, honestly, in amongst all of that, it is a reasonably... safety car has been called. So Aaron James, the early incident there has brought on the early for a safety car. Yeah, that's wow. Look, I'm not surprised, honestly, with such a massive field. I think the thing that's more shocking to me, Nick, is how few incidents we had on that first part of the outlap. I was going to
say, it was quite relatively clean going towards very onto Tamburello, turns 2, 3 and 4 through the fast chicane, where back in previous years he used to be a fast, flat left-hander back in the Formula 1 days, but obviously with the chicane and after the death and the safety standards of what happened in the 1994 accident, they had to slow the track down quite a fair bit. obviously due to FIA safety protocols. But turns 2 and 3, 4, I was expecting a lot more carnage, and I only just got one driver that only just DNF'd from that as well. So that's still pretty high quality driving amongst the rest of the field, as we see one of the drivers at the back making the early pit stop. Obviously looks like it's going to be repairing some damage, as we see a few others also coming into the pit lane. Not a bad time to come into the pit lane, fix your car up. Potentially it could be a couple of laps before we see the safety car come into the pit lane, but this kind of halts and neutralizes the field, Jared, with Danny P, Reese Wakefield, Daniel McCorum, Jeremy Washington and Aidan Williams in the top 5, with a few drivers making up a few early positions, a few early gains that we are seeing already. I believe we have made a few positions with some of the drivers. We could see that down there, Aaron Schotter in the Mercedes AMG has already made up 3 positions up into 12th place. And we actually even have Joshua Harris from ADHD Racing making a few positions up into 4th. Trev Mortimer from Rogue Racing Australia in the Mercedes AMG up 9 positions so far. So it just shows, like, even though you've got a big field of drivers, those small gains, those small wins in gaining positions on that opening lap before the safety car is called is going to be a huge difference. It's going to be a huge factor when it comes to track position for race 2.
It absolutely can be, and of course everyone gunning for that top 10, and certainly Nathan Bowman right now will be the one to benefit from the reverse top 10 grid when we get to that. But of course plenty of racing yet to go. We're only on lap 2 here after all, as the safety car takes us around Imola while we get ourselves sorted out, ready to go racing again. Certainly based on the time so far, you've got to say the Acura are looking the favourite for this season if we were to take it from the first lap of racing. Jeremy Washington in the McLaren, so he's moved across from the Corvette last season. Maybe just taking it, I don't know, a little safely to start with, but it certainly looks like the NSX is going to be the one to beat this season, as we see the safety car pulling away. Race control just confirming that the safety car is coming in at this lap, so we'll be going green flag racing in just a moment. And yeah, look, still plenty of time to go in this first race for Jeremy Washington to pull his way back up to the front of the field, but it's going to be a very, very interesting next 14 odd laps as we get what is effectively a rolling restart. After one lap, you barely got anything worked out. There's been a few changes in position, sure, but realistically, we are essentially restarting the race here at this point. A few of these drivers probably a little bit happier with the idea of a rolling start as we get underway once again. Danny P takes us out. Lap 3 begins, and we are green flag racing. Jeremy Washington off to a cracking start off the green flag and looking to make up the place here on Daniel McCrowan as they come on down. Bit of a nudge there, just some fenders coming together, but so far so good. Always the thing to watch after a safety car restart is, of course, the damage that might ensue as we see the drivers coming through the chicane all fairly cleanly. You've got to say, not too much movement at this point, and just a couple of drivers changing position, but all in all, back off to a very, very clean start. The hardest part of this, of course, is trying to decide where we keep our attention now. Out in front, Danny P, Reese Wakefield and Daniel McCrowan remain ahead of last season's champion Jeremy Washington. Plenty of movement though throughout the field, and back here in the mid-pack is where a lot of the action is going to be as some of these drivers start to sort themselves out. Wiley Blair, a new entry of course for this season, and he's looking to make a move as well, while holding off Dean Power from Black Hawk Motorsport. Josh Harris just losing the position behind him to Henry King as he moves through, and then James Salhani getting caught up in behind it as well, as we take a look a bit further back in the field from some of your front runners. But Nick, the action is going to keep us very, very busy here tonight, I'm sure, as Salhani looks to make the move on Luke Hyden from JTIT Race. I know it's just ahead of him as we come through the chicane for what is only the 3rd time now. You've got to wonder how long it's going to take these guys to find their rhythm, don't you? Oh, have I lost Nick?
Okay.
There he is, he's back.
Do apologise, I did actually have the slip of the mute button there, but no, I was just saying that Imola is definitely a track that you do need to get yourself comfortable around. Obviously, kind of touted as like the Budapest and Monaco of circuits in Italy. It's very hard to be able to negotiate an overtake and actually overtake very cleanly. So I think for the drivers in these early stages, just try and get themselves into a rhythm, try not to lose their focus. They could be focusing on a driver challenging for a higher position or trying to not avoid losing position, as we see right now. Down the back there we see Josh Bernard and Mick Poley obviously going side by side with Mitch Curry right behind them in the Ford Mustang. So a couple of Porsches battling it out whilst they've got a couple of Mustangs, a Mustang right behind and Mitch Curry. But it's just getting that rhythm, you know, it's such about finding your braking points, really just trying to negotiate these parts of the track where it just comes up at you pretty fast. So we can just see there, Piratellas they're going through now, then through to turn 10 and then 11 and 12, Acqua Minerale. This is one of the fastest corners here at Imola. Acqua Minerale in turn 11, then up to 12 and up the hill in 13 before they go to this very tight and awkward chicane, the Variante Alta, where you could potentially throw the car down the inside, but you do need to have faith and trust in the driver that you're making the overtake with. And then down the hill, as they start to complete their route through Ravazza, turn 16 and then 17 and 18, a double left-hander, which makes it very challenging as well. Just lose your momentum there, and the gravel trap on the right-hand side is calling your name, and you lose all that momentum when you go down Variante Bassa, the pit straight, before you go back up towards turn 2 and 3 and 4, the fast Variante Tamburello. But so I think in a way these drivers, I haven't seen too much movement so far. The drivers are still keeping it clean. A few mistakes creeping up here and there, a couple of drivers running wide. But I think for the moment, everything all seems to be settled very well, and pretty calm on the 5th lap. And this is we highly regarded as the 25-minute sprint race as well. So for a sprint race, you expect a lot more action, a lot more risky overtakes, but very calm opening 5 laps so far.
Look, to be fair, you know, for a lot of these drivers, first time racing with a lot of the pack around them, and of course as we get into a pack of this size, probably does pay to just take a little bit of caution. As we see, is that James Lawrence that's ended up sideways.
It was a first
rejoins.
Oh, careful,
very close
boys.
from
Very good awareness by those drivers.
Good moves to get underway and keep it safe. But I was going to say, it's sort of opening race where you can afford to just take it a little easier. Maybe not so for some of the guys that are further down to the pack looking to make up some extra points, but certainly at the front of the field, no reason to push along too quickly. That said, the last lap, Jeremy Washington officially taking the fastest lap of the race so far, but Danny P, Jeremy Washington and Josh Marsh all running 141.94. So the Porsche, McLaren and Acura very, very evenly matched.
Very strong there by the Acura. Very strong display by the Acura. Obviously the first time we're seeing this manufacturer represented in MC Motorsport, and it's occupying the podium positions for the sprint race in Danny P, Reese Wakefield and Danny McCrohan in 3rd. But as you said, Jeremy Washington, there we go. A couple of another 41s there from the top 4 drivers. That's absolutely incredible, the pace they're going. Now you can actually see it on the track map as well. They are literally pulling away from the 5th place driver in Josh Marsh, Aidan Williams and Josh Bernard, the 3, and obviously Mick Poley, the 4 Porsche 992s, as we see a wild McLaren go cutting through the corners at turn 4 and losing a few positions before they come to Variante Villeneuve 5 and 6. So that's going to hamper a little bit of confidence there, a bit of dirty tyres. That's going to go onto that car of the McLaren 720. And here we have our Corvette that probably looks like the sole Corvette in this championship, with Nick Clydesdale fending off from Dan Micro in the McLarens. They're doing really well there to hold position in P39. So obviously seeing quite a few action down the bottom of the field, though, as we show the love down the bottom half of the field, whilst we also show the love on the top half of the field. So it's great to see some camera exposure amongst all of our field. As you said, 44 drivers. Where can you look, Jared? There's going to be so much action going on.
We'll try and capture it all as always, but a massive hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. at the start of this season. I appreciate some of the returning names that I recognise, of course. Kramer's back with us as well, and we've got Monte Cristo dropping by, and of course the Llama is back. But a big hello to Keith Logan, Project 36, Tyson Marcus, a few other names popping up there. Shannon Wright from Everything Simulated. Great to have you joining us for the chat as well. If there's anyone you do want us to keep an eye on, then by all means please do give us a shout, and we will happily get you caught up on things. And speaking of getting caught up on things, Nathan Bowman just jumped into the pits there, take a look back, and big use of the brakes there. Gets a bit of a nudge from one of the antique cars perhaps, but that Porsche has ended up facing completely the wrong way, and that's a really awkward spot to try and get going again. Not long after that, Jamie Taylor in the Dangerland Motorsports Mustang just getting his rear end a little bit loose over those curves, and ends up facing the wrong way as well. So really, really awkward spots to try and extract yourself from there, and losing a lot of positions, unfortunately, as he waits to get going again. And we rejoin it, taking a look at the action down in P18. There's a bit of a train of cars here, really starting with Patrick Frame up in P11, and you can see on the timing tower just the gaps here. Look at this train we've got going. This is something I usually expect to see with the supercars, but instead we're here in the GT3s, and we've got a very long train of Porsches and Mustangs and McLarens and everything else.
Jeremy Bunker trying to go for a move through Variante Alta. No, just backs out of it. Very smart driving there by Bunker. That was going to be very risky going for a move down at 14 and 15, but held his nerve, kept it calm, and just thought better of it. So smart etiquette from the McLaren driver. He'll be able to get him back pretty soon. Obviously, he looks like he's got the pace. Only a couple of laps ago, he did make a mistake in the first sector by running wide and onto the grass, but now back up towards the front three. We've got the three Acuras, Danny P, Reese Wakefield, Daniel McCrum in the first, second and third, really pulling away. Jeremy Washington has actually lost a bit of touching ground to the third place driver and Daniel McCrum, but also the front two drivers are actually creating a bit of a gap over the P3 driver in car number 50. So the front two really working well. 2 tenths separating those top two drivers, but even then 8 tenths covering the top three. So we saw in qualifying how close the times were. So, and it's quite representative amongst the top four, because you can see then the next driver, Josh Marsh, in 5th place, is 1.5 behind Jeremy Washington. And 1.5 might not seem a lot on the track map, but pace-wise, if the front four are going quite quickly, it's going to be hard for Josh to actually think about mustering an overtake in this next half of the race when we come up to race 2.
Absolutely. It looks like Wiley Blair's had an issue. Just noticed him going back a couple of spots. It does look like Nick Clydesdale's just had a bit of a moment again through that hairpin, and he's managed to get it running again, but there's carnage in the background as Bradley Minshall goes around as well. Looks like he may have made contact with Trev Mortimer and Jamie Taylor as they make their way up the hill, but Bradley Minshall from Blackhawk needs to get underway again. I tell you what, it's going to keep happening, isn't it, as we go side by side. This is Aaron Gilbert and Lachlan Burke side by side through the last couple of turns. See who's got the nerve here as they make their way through, getting very, very squirrely.
Wow, nice move around the outside.
Liam Jensen manages to hold on up front of this little battle, but Aaron Gilbert gets away with it with Lachlan Burke, Ryan Palmer, Dean Jacobson, all very, very close behind. These guys are almost looking like going 3 or 4 wide into that first chicane. Big moment, and that is Lachlan Burke around. Lachlan Burke slides, big contact, somehow manages to keep it off the wall, and he's only going to lose a few spots. That was fantastic car control to get that back up on facing the right way. Look, not the ideal, but a wonderful save from Lachlan Burke, FCR Sim Sport.
Very good save there by Lachlan Burke, but also I feel like it could have been just a bit of a side effect with the side draft between himself and Ryan Palmer as they're going through towards turn 2, 3 and 4, that the car the Mustang must have just got sucked into the Porsche's left-hand side of the car and just must have just escorted him wide. And we do know that section. We've seen it very clearly in the 2021 Formula 1 Championship between Valtteri Bottas and George Russell in the Williams and Mercedes respectively. That that corner really narrows up pretty quickly, so there's not much room for margin of error, and unfortunately a bit of a side contact between those two has cost him dearly. I wonder if he's actually got damage in the Porsche. Is he an Acura, the car 18? Really having a
Harrod? Lee Keldoulis, going sideways there. Manages to save it.
So Lee Keldoulis doing a really good job just holding that half spin. But only just drops a few positions down to P28, sadly, and he's also lost it again through Variante Alta.
Fried after that last slide, I'd say.
Yeah, the tyre temperatures would be going off the charts there. They're pulling it up at the chicane. No chance at all, sadly. But in the good state of mind, he's still trucking on very nicely. Lap 10 of 15. We've got ourselves 5 laps to go until the end. 6 laps to go until the end of this race. With Danny P, Reese Wakefield, Daniel McCraw still holding the top 3. 2 seconds separate Jeremy Washington and Josh Marsh. That is incredible pace by the defending champion as well as the top 4 respectively. But looking down the field here, we're seeing a nice battle pack here. We have the likes of Ian Ward coming through in the McLaren 720, coming in very nicely there, running up into P29 at the moment. Obviously, we do also have to remind our viewers, Ian Ward is actually running on the controller in the iRacing world. I believe he does have a wheel, but I don't think it's all connected up, unless he's actually telling me naughty fibs into my GT7 world that he runs on the controller and the GT7 platform. But I believe he does the same thing with iRacing running on the pad. So full credit to him if he's doing that for season 3.
I can confirm at this stage at least, Ian Ward is running 100% on a handheld controller, which is devastating to me that he's so much quicker than I am, considering that I've got the profile rig set up here next to me. To be outpaced by someone on a controller, I'm not sure if that's a testament to his skill or criticism of mine, but either way, the man is much faster than anyone using a controller has any right to be. As we see the fields heading down to the last couple of turns here, we're watching the battle for 11th right now. Liam Jensen out in front with Aaron Gilbert, Ryan Palmer, Dean Jacobson, Brad Cooper and Simon Caplett all reasonably close behind. And we're starting to see a couple of little mid-pack battles forming here. This is one of the things with a field of this size. Not everyone's going to be challenging for first, second or third, but there's going to be plenty going on throughout the field. As you see Brad Cooper take a very, very big look up the inside of Dean Jacobson, and James Bunker on the back of Simon Caplett doing much the same as they make their way through here onto lap of 11. It's really interesting to see this sort of thing form, and it'll be something for us to keep an eye on over the course of the season as we do see
Bunker just runs wide again.
You tell you what, these guys are pushing very, very hard, aren't they?
Exactly. It's only 4 laps to go until the end of the race here. 4.5 laps to go until the end of the race there. But we can also see James Bunker really pushing the limits of the McLaren, running down in 17th place, chasing Simon Caplett in the Porsche 992 in 16th. So as we can see there on the map there now through the track guide, we can actually see all the cars are still relatively close to each other. So I was actually quite expecting bigger margins. Obviously, you see in the real world GT3 championships that there's quite a fair bit of margin, a fair bit of strategy and faster drivers, fast paces. We can see there, 2 for 1 there goes Dan Micro, the McLaren 720 that takes a 2 for 1 specialty. Well done to the man, very patient, waiting to bide his time there, and puts it up into P33. Nicely done there by the McLaren driver. But I was going to say that, but you see in the real world there's quite a fair few gaps amongst some drivers, but it all comes down towards strategy. But there's not really much of a strategy going on here. It's a 15-lap sprint, and I think these guys just really want to put themselves in the best position possible, and that's why we're seeing such close times amongst our competitors, amongst our field.
Just hearing from race control, Patrick Frame, the 935 Acura in P31 right now, being issued a drive-through for an early incident on the lap 6, so we'll have to go and serve that one at some point shortly, I'm sure. Also a disqualification for Nathan Bowman, not quite sure what's happened there, but I'm sure race control will sort that out in the coming days. Of course, the usual appeals process always there for these drivers if they feel that the decision has been unfair or unreasonable. In terms of the gaps between these cars, it's really interesting to see so much of a gap in that front 10, considering how closely they all qualified. Whereas we come back to the mid-pack that we've been watching here, and this is where all of the battles are going on at the moment. As we take a look at the battle from 11th, still going on. Liam Jensen managing to retain his position, but still Gilbert, Palmer, Jacobson and Cooper all right there on his tail. Cannot afford to ease up here at all, or even think about backing off, because he will be overtaken in no time if he was to let these guys have even a sniff of getting ahead right now. So we keep an eye on it. Danny P and Reece Wakefield up front. Nothing in this. These two both going at it
a little bit.
They have, yeah. The two Antic Motorsports teammates working together. You'd have to think at the moment to be opening the gap up to Daniel McCrowan in third, and Jeremy Washington seems to have managed to just close that gap up a little bit to McCrowan. So there's essentially a battle for third going on, and a battle for first between the teammates. And I'm not so sure is so much a battle as it is a bit of a team enterprise at the moment. But then as you look back through that top 10, Josh Marsh, Aiden Williams, Joshua Benno, Mick Polly, Aaron Schotter, all a couple of seconds of space between them. The closest right now is Mitch Curry in 10th, just reeling in Schotter slowly but surely. It's turning out to be a very, very interesting top 10 considering how close the qualifying times were. But as always, being able to hot lap doesn't always translate to race pace.
No, absolutely not. And obviously, just going through my brief notes, I've got given about the top two in the top two in this race, Danny Bolton and Reece Wakefield. Obviously, I've heard that they are both GT Pro drivers, and they'll actually be competing in top split of the GT3 Championships in Australia. So I'm not so sure how much background history you might have with those two drivers, Jared. But obviously, it just shows that their experience in GT racing on iRacing could give them an distinct advantage when it comes to this Season 3 Championship, when it comes to competing for the title and trying to take that number one away from Jeremy Washington.
Yeah, look, Danny P and Reece Wakefield both are very, very quick drivers in their own right. Daniel McCrowan from Team Max Boost, new to this season, new to the MC Motorsport stable of drivers, but certainly making a name for himself here in round one of this championship, and stepping up to be probably one to watch, I would say, as we just see Ronald Long has had an incident in the background. The iRock Designs replay picking up, and just too much of a slide. Hits those sausage curbs, and as always, the sausage curbs are brutal.
Yep, nobody wants to touch a sausage, that's for sure.
We'll go back up front. Danny P and Reece Wakefield continue the two Antic Motorsports entries, starting to just open that gap up slowly but surely as we approach the end of race one here at Imola. And really, no one's looked like threatening them since about lap 3. Both of these Acuras very, very quick around this track. And considering we are on a fixed setup, it really speaks to the skill of the drivers, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously the top two, as mentioned earlier, that these guys are professionals at their finest, and really handling that Acura around Imola. Also, we can see Reece Wakefield got a strong exit out of Variante Alta, is looking to put a little bit more pressure, see if he can put some pressure on Danny P as he comes down towards Rivazza. A little bit of a late braking there, shows the nose a little bit on the inside line, but nothing doing there amongst the two teammates. It's been really class between those top two. I would say even within the top four at the early stages of the race, Daniel McCrowan and Jeremy Washington, as a white flag is raised and flagged for the last time here for the sprint race for the MC Motorsport Season 3 Domains2U GT3 Championship. The top two separated by just 0.2 of a second. The two teammates, Danny P, Reece Wakefield, vying it out for the first bragging rights in Season 3 in the sprint race. Still holding on very nicely there. It's really nice to see those Acuras really take those curves. Oh, first mistake there by Danny P. And that's the first mistake we've seen from one of the main contenders in this championship. Could potentially concede that position to Reece Wakefield as they go side by side on the outside of turn 7. And they get towards turn 8, 9 and 10. Who's going to be the man that comes out in front? It is still Danny P up into P1, but that was a hairy and close moment there for the leader of the race there. One lapse of concentration, and Reese Wakefield was there to pounce.
This is the question I was about to ask. Last lap, are these guys racing as teammates, or is it anyone's race from here? And I think based on Wakefield just perhaps backing it off a little and allowing Danny P to regather that position, I wonder if there's a little bit of team strategy going on here, because I suspect, knowing Reese Wakefield and the way he drives, I suspect if it was anybody else, he would have been past there. So I'm really curious, and we'll no doubt be having a chat to one of these two in just a moment as we see them come around the last couple of turns here to finish off race number 1 in the Domains2U GT3 Championship. I think we'll be hearing very shortly just whether or not that was a intentional move. But there we go, Danny P coming across the line, Reese Wakefield in P2 and Daniel McCrowan in P3 just behind. Then Jeremy Washington coming through in 4th place. Still a few battles going on up and down through the field though, so we will keep our eyes on those as Mitch Curry and Liam Jensen come to the line. Curry's going to hold him off and maintain position 10. Then of course Ryan Palmer, Jacobson and Cooper not too far behind. Dean Power can't quite get there with Simon Caplet. James Bunker, Josh Harris, Wiley Blair all close together there with Henry King and James Salhani just behind. And just coming through now, we've got Dylan Thomas from MC Motorsport just ahead of Daniel Harrod, then Luke Patton and Scott Stevens, Ian Ward a little further behind. And it looks like Martin Lipsky, unfortunately, has had a late spin that's cost him a few positions there.
Yeah, that's very
looks like it's
unlucky.
Lewis and Martin Lipsky have come together. We'll go back and we'll have a look at that one in just a second. Let's go and see what we can see. It's a big, that's a very interesting. Wow, Likel Doulis. I'm not sure what happened there. His brakes did not pull him up. Either he's missed the braking marker completely, or he's had some sort of hardware issue because he was never making that corner.
No
Absolutely
way. That
never
definitely looks like it had to have looked like a failure. It looks like it had to. As you see, slow again there. Wow, that's so unlucky for the Ford driver there, just to be losing out all those positions. Really pretty much an innocent victim there. It definitely looked like a long brake pedal for the Acura driver, but at the same time, it could not have been an intentional hit. It just had to be just either a missed braking point or, as you said, a hardware failure on the braking system, just getting no feedback at all, sadly. But that's just a harsh way to really ruin someone's race. And that, if that could be deemed towards the stewards as, as an intentional hit or innocent, or an innocent hit or an innocent bystanding moment, we'll have to wait and see. But it is Danny P, the man that takes the lights to checkered flag, and he's done himself a very good job to get himself in that P1 position, as we have the man himself joining us in the commentary booth here, just to give us a little bit of a debrief of what happened in the sprint race. Welcome along, Danny P.
Welcome.
Your first victory. First victory in 2025 for Season 3 of the GT3 Championship. Bit of a hairy moment on the last lap there between yourself and your teammate Reese Wakefield. Bit of pressure there, or was it just all smooth control for the race?
Look, it was smooth. We've got papaya rules, so whoever's in front is the front guy. But no, I just put my foot on the brake and the car did something weird and it went sideways. And yeah, I don't think Reese was going to get me. Unless he wanted to really fight, which I didn't think he wanted to do. So that was pretty much that.
Well, look, a fantastic start to the season. The Acura looking pretty dominant out there based on that display, Danny. Is this what we're expecting? Is this the reason for the car choice tonight from the team, or just that it happens to be pretty well suited to Imola?
The Acura to me kind of felt like how the McLaren was last year when we did the GT3, so I just kind of stuck with that. But the problem is the Acura, to be quick, you have to drive on a knife's edge, so it's quite hard to tame. But I think at places like Daytona, the Mustang will sail past, and same at Spa, so it'll be interesting to see if we can keep up the front or if other people will jump us.
Yeah, we also noticed, we were talking about earlier in the broadcast, that there's quite a variety of car selections, obviously the most dominant one being the Porsche 992 as the favourite car. But one surprise that we haven't seen so far in Season 3 that we saw quite heavily in Season 1 and 2 was the Ferrari 296. So I wonder if you have any intel on maybe potentially why that car wasn't actually a favourite car amongst our drivers.
I've always hated that car, so I've never really driven it.
Oh, okay, fair.
So I can't really comment on that one.
No, fair enough there. So there we go. Obviously, not a favourite car by the race 1 winner, but obviously going into race 2, a longer race. Obviously, reverse top 10. You starting down in 10th, and your teammate starting up in P9. Yep. What is the ruling going to be? I'm not so sure if there's going to be much papaya rules. The man that leads into turn 1 keeps the lead for the rest of the race, or will you guys be battling it out pretty hard within the next 30 laps?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. I guess whoever gets to turn 1... Actually, to be fair, whoever gets out of the pit stop, I think will probably be in front. But again, if we can make a spot, we'll make a spot. If we don't need to make a spot, we don't need to make a spot. And I think Reese got the fastest lap last race, so in theory, we should be tight on points.
There you go. Look, at a fantastic start. Obviously, just a few minutes till we're back into the main race for this evening, so we'll let you go and get that strategy sorted out. But an awesome race for you to start the season, Danny, and congratulations. Hopefully we'll be chatting to you again, if not later tonight, then across a few of the next rounds as well, hey?
Yeah, thank you boys, have a good one. See you next race.
Fingers crossed. Danny P, your winner there in race number 1. Let's take a look at more of the results. Danny P in race Wakefield there, ahead of Daniel McRyan and Jeremy Washington. Then Josh Marsh, Aidan Williams, Joshua Benno, Mick Polly, Aaron Schotter and Mitch Curry are your top 10, ahead of Liam Jensen, Aaron Gilbert, Ryan Palmer, Dean Jacobson, then Brad Cooper, Simon Caplet, Dean Powell and James Bunker. We go further back through the field to Josh Harris, Wiley Blair, Henry King and James Talhani, then Luke Hayden, Lachlan Burke, Dylan Thomas and Daniel Harrod ahead of Luke Patton and Scott Stevens, Ian Ward and Charlie Milliken rounding out your top 30, then Dan Mirko, Chris Bleakley ahead of Caleb Thompson and Jamie Taylor, Trev Mortimer and James Lawrence. Tell you what, longest list of names that I think I've ever had to look through. Nick Clydesdale and Ronald Long ahead of Bradley Minshall and Martin Lipsky, then Lee Kildulis and Patrick Frame ahead of Aaron James, with Nathan Bowman getting disqualification early on. So we will have to keep an eye on that and see what happens as we look to race number 2. We're getting ready to go. We'll be back after a very quick word from our major sponsor.
Struggling to get your business online? At Domains2U, we make it easy with fast domain registration, powerful web hosting, and top-tier security solutions. Protect your data and customers with premium security features like domain privacy and SSL encryption. Find the perfect domain name and get online in minutes. Get started today at domains2u.com.au.
Welcome back to Imola, ladies and gents. I sincerely hope that you've taken the opportunity to grab yourself a refill if you need one. Race 1 was an absolute cracker. We're about to get underway with race 2. 30 laps here, a reverse top 10 grid. We've got around about 50 minutes of racing ahead of us, so do make sure you're well hydrated. The warm-up session just finishing as we take a look at the grid for race number 2. We're just waiting on iRacing, doing its thing as always. Here we go. Mitch Curry and Aaron Schotter will take the front with Mick Polly and Joshua Benno behind. Aidan Williams and Josh Marsh in row 3. Then Jeremy Washington and Daniel McRyan ahead of Reese Wakefield and Danny P. That is your reverse top 10. The remainder of the field starting as they finished, Liam Jensen and Aaron Gilbert ahead of Ryan Palmer and Dean Jacobson. Then Brad Cooper and Simon Caplet, Dean Powell and James Bunker ahead of Josh Harris and Wiley Blair. Henry King and James Salhani ahead of Luke Hayden and Lachlan Burke. Further back through the field, Dylan Thomas and Daniel Harrod line up alongside each other ahead of Luke Patton and Scott Stevens. Then Ian Ward and Charlie Milliken rounding out the 30. Dan Mirko and Chris Bleakley ahead of Caleb Thompson and Jamie Taylor. Trev Mortimer and James Lawrence lining up ahead of Nick Clydesdale and Ronald Long. Then Bradley Minshall and Martin Lipsky ahead of Lee Kildulis and Patrick Frame, with Aaron James, the 43rd driver, on track. We are going to get down to the grid because we're going to be ready to go in no time here, I am sure. As the drivers line up, we will be underway. I'm sure as soon as all these drivers are ready to go. Here we are under starters orders. The lights come up for race number 2. 30 laps about to get underway. The revs come up and we are go. Green lights on. Underway here for race number 2, and immediately some positions changing. Obviously not everyone getting the clean start they were perhaps hoping for, as we see a few moves up and down through the pack. Into turn 1 here, looking far more dangerous than it did the first time through. We'll try and keep with this as all of these drivers come down. You can see a couple of them starting to run wide. I'm surprised in the background already. Big contact already there. That's Simon Caplet getting caught up in that. Dean Jacobson, I think, was caught in it as well. Simon Caplet finds himself facing the wrong way as he gets collided into by another Mustang.
Oh, this might be a safety car.
Carnage. You'd have to think we're going to see a safety car for this. Charlie Milliken getting caught up in it as well. Just huge amounts of carnage there. Look, not unexpected. And we see the safety car has been called, so there we go. There will be plenty to clean up there. Look, we expected these drivers to go at it pretty hard as they've kind of found their feet here, but wow, not quite what I was expecting off the restart. That was absolute chaos. Let's go back and take a quick look on the IRAP replay. And Bradley Minshall manages to get through, but then catches on the grass and ends up into Simon Caplet there. And just cars absolutely everywhere. I don't think we even caught half of that on our feed as well. You know, ordinarily we can see a lot of this happen, but it seems to have happened too quickly for even our telemetry to pick up at this point. Go back and see Dean Jacobson ended up off track, and I think that was just him trying to get back on track after the other collision, but a bit of contact there. That was just really unfortunate for the other driver involved. Dan Mirko ended up off track. We can't quite see much from the footage there. Let's try another view. That's dragged a lot of gravel back onto the track. That McLaren looking very, very unhealthy indeed. And there's just the carnage he's coming around the corner into. He'd probably almost be happy about that. Let's go back to Simon Caplet. I think was the first one to get caught up there. And yeah, look, unfortunate, but thankfully not much damage. And then as you see him sitting and waiting, just absolutely gets panels torn off there by other cars coming through. So
I don't know about you, but I've counted at least 5 to 6 cars involved in that turn 4 incident there. It's obviously Imola being such a tight, narrow track, as well as the 44 amazing GT3 cars that we have on display here at MC Motorsport for season 3 of the Domains2U GT3 Championship. But at the same time, it's so tight, it's so narrow. It's like one car ahead makes a mistake, and then the guy down in 30th downwards gets caught up in that. It's just game over, sadly. So we have a lot of drivers that were caught up in that from the midfield and the lower half of the field there. So just innocent bystanders, sadly, that they had their race rule. But we have a few positions gained by a few drivers there. We have Josh Bernard, who's actually came up 2 positions up into P2 in the Porsche 166. We have Liam Jensen for BE Electrical Race on Oz up 3 positions in P8. Ryan Palmer has snuck himself inside the top 10, 4 positions gained for the ADHD Racing, as well as Josh Harris, who's actually gained 5 positions, as well as Wiley Blair, 5 positions there for those 2 respective drivers. But the most we've seen so far comes all the way down to in P29. Aaron James, BPS Outdoors Motorsport up 15 positions, and you can all thank the first lap incident that was made, that happened in that first lap, that he managed to gain all those positions. And sadly, Dean Jacobson, who was actually caught up in that lap 1 incident, down 22 positions in the BE Electricals Race on Oz. So a lot of winners and bidders, sadly, but it is the man that leads the first part of this race, lap 2 of 30 as well. So we are still under safety car lights. It is Mitch Curry ahead of Joshua Bernard, Mick Poley, Aidan Williams, Josh Marsh rounding up our top 5. Jeremy Washington, apologies there, for JW Racing, the reigning defending champion, in P6. Danny McCrory in P7. Liam Jensen, Reese Wakefield, and Ryan Palmer rounding up the top 10. So Danny P has actually lost a position there, down to 11th position at the moment. So what are we thinking about with Danny P? Obviously obviously early stages, long race to go. A few of the drivers have actually made their pit stops, I did notice in that safety car period there. So I wonder if they're getting that compulsory stop and getting that fuel up to the tank to pretty much run to the end of the race.
Looking at the drivers that have come in for that stop, I actually think the vast bulk of those are the repairs required from that incident. When I look at some of the names there, Simon Caplet, Bradley Minshall, Lico Lewis, I reckon most of those have come in purely for repairs after that first lap incident. And I tell you what, that incident was utter mayhem. Honestly, we saw an early safety car in race 1, and not to be outdone, race 2, lap 1 has delivered something a little bit unusual, but not at all unexpected given the size of this field. So many drivers caught up in that. I don't think we're even sure exactly who ended up copying all of the damage in amongst that, but I can tell you that there is certainly a few drivers, when we look at those that are back quite a number of spots. Aaron Gilbert from Team Jinx back in 29th at the moment, Dean Power down 15 spots, Dean Jacobson down 21, Simon Caplet down 24. We know they all got caught up in that mishmash of drivers, and just a horror start to race 2, but the good news for them, I suppose, is that they've still got a lot of laps to try and make it up, and anything can happen in the next 27 laps of racing.
And I guess that they've actually made their pit stop. Obviously, I believe the fuel burn on these cars is quite significant, that drivers will need to make a pit stop. Even though it's not compulsory to make a pit stop, they will need to come into the pit lane for a splash and dash and a change of tyres. Of course, I've heard as well that the tyre wear is quite low. If you manage them very well, you could actually just run a whole set of tyres to the end of the feature race. So it'd be very interesting to see those drivers that came into the pit lane to repair their cars and also join the back of the queue of the safety car of the leading pack. I wonder, there could be a great strategy in disguise. You just never know, that anything can happen. We just saw in the opening laps of this opening few corners of the opening lap how things can turn out, but we also saw in the restart in the sprint race, it kind of neutralized a lot when it was the single file restart, that all the drivers were settling in to a rhythm. Not too many moves were being made in those opening couple of laps, that it's just now settling in for the long haul now for those drivers that have come into the pit lane and seeing what they can do strategy wise, as we have a feeling that the safety car might be coming at the end of this lap. I did see us actually pulling a little bit of a gap to Mitch Curry. No, I believe that's going to be one more lap to go under safety car. No, I am mistaken. I was right the first time.
Got to give race control time.
I was right the first time.
You're all over this, Nick. Honestly, don't doubt yourself, mate. We're about to go green flag racing again. It has been a couple of horror starts, honestly. I do wonder, and this is me getting very much ahead of myself here, I'm sure, but I do wonder if we will see any conversation about rolling starts perhaps being utilised for future races with a field this size, because so far the carnage has absolutely been there. As we get ready to go green again, Mitch Curry leads the field as we come down to the start finish line once more. It's a long way down, a huge field. Mitch Curry holding these drivers for the moment. As we get to the start finish line, he's really holding them off. At this stage, you can see the drivers all banking up, and there he goes. And we'll see a lot of movement now. This is going to cause some issues, I'm sure, behind, as he's held them for so long there, just waiting and biding his time to get back underway. It's going to work out well for himself and Josh Benno. The question will be the remainder of the cars further back in the field as we look to keep an eye on the pack coming through, because there is every chance that we're going to see the same again. And sure enough, the same corner, that's Danny P has been caught up in that. Daniel Poulton has been caught and has suffered what looks to be some fairly significant damage in amongst all of that. Patrick Frame getting caught up as well. That is absolutely horrific, that restart. Danny thankfully manages to get back underway, but look, unsurprisingly,
So the drivers from
drivers
P10 downwards got caught up in all of that. It was Ryan Palmer who was sitting 10th, and then Danny P, P11. So all being caused by the safety car restart that was put in stone by Mitch Curry. We can see that Danny P was just trying to go around the outside of Ryan Palmer. Could not be done whatsoever. And then unfortunately, both drivers, really dangerous there, facing each other, the two victims. In the incident of turn 4, facing each other, probably putting up some hand gestures that we can't show you, ladies and gentlemen, on our screens here. But at the same time, it was quite a bit of a risky move there, as we see another of the drivers, Acura drivers, another one of the Sim Rigs sponsored Acura NSXs, so a teammate as well to for the Antic Motorsport teams that actually had a bit of an incident there. So wow, my goodness, a lot of things that happened, but there hasn't been a safety second. There has not been a second safety car being called out, and it's still Mitch Curry that leads Josh Bernard in P2, with Mick Polly rounding up in 3rd place. So, bit of a risky start there by Mitch Curry, but we do see antics like this, not just in the sim world, but in the real world as well. One that brings up to mind most recently the 2020 Portimao Formula 1 Championship, where they had a safety car restart in 2020. The whole field bunched up on the start finish straight, where Valtteri Bottas was leading the field to the safety car restart. And the hard cars behind us, we see a Porsche looping it around there. I believe that looks to be Josh Marsh. It looks like he's actually had a bit of a spin there on the exit of Tosa. Yes, it is Josh Marsh, and he was running up pretty highly inside the top 10, inside the top 5, rather. So 2 contenders, so 2 of the top 5 drivers from the sprint race have all had accidents, separate accidents, and they are in no man's land at the moment. But yeah, the safety car restart has kind of caused a little bit of that, as we see more carnage going through Variante Alta.
Thankfully,
one of Daniel McCrory as well. So another driver that was part of the contenders for the feature race win. So 3 potential contenders for the feature race victory have all had their moments in the span of a couple of laps here after the safety car restart. So much chaos going on here in the feature race, and we're only on lap 5 of 30 here, Jared. So I'm wondering what is going to be coming in store for the next phase of this race.
I don't even want to guess at this point. There has been so much movement just through cars losing position once they run off track. I mean, we're looking at Daniel Harrod right now up in P11. He's up 15 spots in a matter of 6 laps. That is phenomenal. Josh Harris just a couple of positions further ahead. You can see him further up the road there with James Bunker on his tail. Josh is up 10 positions. James Bunker is up 8. Just ahead, Brad Cooper is up 7. Liam Jensen is 6th, is up 5 as well. So all of this playing in. In fact, we'll try and get you a bit of a view of this now, simply because there's just been so much movement. In fact, have a look at your tower right now, and you can see just how many of these drivers have moved up double-digit positions in this race, just by avoiding the carnage at this stage. As we see,
that's all
Daniel
it is.
Harrod. Yeah, that's all it is. Absolutely. Daniel Harrod leads the pack of Wiley Blair, Henry King, and Daniel McCrowan as they come up towards the chicane once again. And look, there's a lot of laps to go, but for some of those top drivers that were so quick in race 1, but now find themselves all the way down the back of the pack.
Change for the lead here, as we see Joshua Bernard has actually made a move at Rivazza, and we can see Mitch Curry is still going side by side, the leaders of this race. They had a side-by-side moment between the lead of this race, the Porsche, where that was recently used by Mitch Curry, has now jumped over to the Ford Mustang, still side by side as they go towards turn 1. Keep yourselves distant, boys, because you've got another Porsche in Mick Poley right behind in the 911. They're going to go braking into turns 2. Bit of contact made between Curry and Bernard in position 2, and that's going to open up the door for Mick Poley, and there is an accident, major accident between Poley and Bernard there. That move was not going to happen there. Obviously not much racing room was given between the two Porsche drivers, and sadly that's put Bernard down in P8. And that has obviously been
right
caused. It was actually caused by actually running wide through the running wide in turn 2 as well. So sadly for him, running wide, losing that position already, and then getting contact with Mick Poley. It's just very unfortunate for those two Porsche drivers. Tamburello really bites again. You know, we've seen so many incidents through the variants of Tamburello turns 2, 3, and 4, and we've seen at least one incident per lap. It's quite crazy to feel that, quite crazy to imagine that how many accidents have been caused in that section of track.
And there was a lot of argy-bargy there with Mitch Curry, and I think perhaps just not expecting to see the other Porsche alongside. He's made contact, and yeah, sure enough.
And I will say, look who has benefited through all of this carnage. The man in P3, Jeremy Washington. He is on a charge here, up 4 positions, keeping away from all of the carnage, all of his championship contenders. Danny P well down the order. We can even see Reese Wakefield down in position 6, so only a few positions behind Jeremy Washington. But also we have to keep in mind Daniel Macron as well in P13. So out of all this, Jeremy Washington is the major beneficiary throughout all of this sequence of events, as we see Daniel Macron going for the inside move on the Lambo driver in Henry King, makes it stick and rounds it up into P12. So huge gains for the reigning champion.
Absolutely, Aaron James sends it up the side of Martin Lipsky, ends up on the outside through the chicane, but nothing doing there. You can see Scott Stevens in the background wanting to make the move as well, gets it done. Lipsky, unfortunately, just that little slip has let through 3 more cars, so he'll find himself back in P24, but already he's 16 positions up from where he started the race, so at this stage probably not too disappointed, I would have to think, with where he's sitting at the moment. We go forward now. James Bunker and Ian Ward side by side. Ian Ward goes very wide next. It forces Bunker out onto the concrete, and look at that redressing. Beautiful. That's what we like to see. Just a sequence of events that we've seen in these last couple of laps. This is how you start a season.
I hope you folks at home are enjoying what you are seeing here. If you'd like to see more action here for the MC Motorsport's GT3 Championship, subscribe to the Simples Motorsport YouTube Racing Broadcast YouTube channel here, where we're going to be providing you all of the action of MC Motorsport's GT3 Championship for what is going to be an exciting 44-man field that we have here tonight. We're expecting more. We're going to be expecting quite consistency throughout the whole year. But it's going to be a great year, great season to call. The action here on the Simple Racing Broadcast YouTube channel that is working very close quarters with the MC Motorsport crew, as we see one of the drivers here, the 935
frame. Huge damage on the front end of that. We'll go back a little further and see if we can see what's caused that initially.
It looks like a puncture.
Oh, that's huge damage to that front right. That is not spinning at all. That's jammed up into the wheel well, so he's had an incident further back somewhere that we haven't caught. But that wheel is absolutely frozen solid in the arch. So he's just limping that back to the pits at the moment, but dragging the underside of that very unhappy looking Acura. It's a long way back to the pits, but it looks like it's mostly able to keep it moving. There's some real damage happening out there, as we see Daniel Macron run a little wide on exit, but manages to recover it and keep himself ahead of Daniel Harrod and Henry King. Further back, Wiley Blair had a little bit of an incident earlier that pushed him back a few more spots, so he's trying to recover that now. As we see, he's just having a few connection issues, but thankfully not too bad. On the back of Dylan Thomas from Fishy Motorsports. If you're wondering where you've heard Fishy Motorsports before, if you've taken a look at any of the V8 supercar racing over the last few years, you would be all too familiar with that name. They have a whole host of drivers that are super comfortable in those supercars, and certainly we saw a number of them make an appearance in the MC Motorsport, a Gen 3 supercar season that ended what feels like only a few weeks ago, but actually probably more like a month and a half ago now. They certainly know their way around a V8 supercar, and of course Dylan Thomas proving here that stepping into another Ford is his happy place.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to see that Fishy Motorsport. They always bring in striking liveries, and as we saw in this Gen 3 Supercar Championship, that livery has actually transferred into the GT3 Mustang, and it absolutely looks stunning and very well presented as well for the Fishy Motorsports. It's the sole Fishy Motorsports driver, so hopefully we might be able to see a few more in the reserve lists over the next few rounds. It would be great to see that name being represented back at MC Motorsports. But going back to what we saw with Patrick Frame and the car being right hand side down, I wonder, and this could be just a theory here, where the start finish straight, where the barrier kind of pokes out a little bit on the pit straight. I wonder if he actually clips that wall, that he could just be running up against the wall to get to the start finish line. But I wonder if that sticking barrier, he may have just clipped it, and that's why the car was right hand side down. We'll probably get a better sight when we see these cars coming onto the start finish straight, and I'll see if you can get what I mean there, Jared. But there's a couple of the spots where I'm trying to think where it could happen, but the only potential I can see was on that start finish straight, where we see the drivers coming out of the pit lane and just getting that car right hand down. Yeah, there you go, right there.
There you go.
That's what I was calling.
You've absolutely picked it, and that's exactly what's happened. He's just taken it too close to that pit wall and has absolutely annihilated that front right suspension. So that's an entire lap he's going to have to limp that thing back.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just thinking. It couldn't just be a right-hand tyre failure or suspension failure on the pit straight. It would have had to have been something different. It would have had to have been something else there. So sad, because it does happen. You know, like, you want to be running up as close as you can to the barrier to try and minimise your lap time and shave off a few thousandths of a second, milliseconds of your lap time. But at the same time, it does pay a bit of a higher risk and consequence there. And sadly for the 935, limping that car in the pit lane and well down the order, sadly. But looking back up towards the front now, we can see Reese Wakefield closing in on the back of a couple of Porsches there in Liam Jensen and Mick Poley, as he's trying to really gain some positions and try and catch up to the back of Jeremy Washington, who is up in P3, who's actually closing up on Aidan Williams in position 2. But also Reese Wakefield kind of has to look in his rear view mirror, because he's got another Porsche right behind there in Brad Cooper in P7, the 993. So, but it looks like he might be sizing up a move here on Liam Jensen here down through Ravazza. Gets quite late on the brakes there compared to the Porsche driver. So he can get himself up towards turn 17 for the last time of lap 11 to start lap 12. He's tucking in underneath that rudder, underneath that rear wing, try to get so much slipstream, just pluck through the revs, pluck through the gears, and then try if he can see that he can send the car down the inside. He's got quite a good run on the pit straight. Can he set it up the inside of the Porsche driver? No, just backs out of it. You're just not going to make the move just yet. Just work your lines here through turns 3 and 4 through Tamburello, and really try and set yourself up through Variante. Villeneuve shows a nose, shows the car to throw it down the inside. Doesn't make anything happen. It kind of actually puts Liam Jensen off a little bit wide off his racing line, and then Tosa, one of the main opportunities to go for a move down the inside. But it looks like the driver in the Car 360 Porsche holding on really nicely there, Jared, and some great driving, some great defensive driving and race etiquette that Liam Jensen's showing, that he's not being flustered by one of the main contenders in this championship.
Jensen, a very experienced veteran of the MC Motorsport series, and certainly knows how to handle himself out on track. We've seen plenty from him to know that he has plenty in the tank yet. Keith Logan just asking how Nick Clydesdale is going. Unfortunately, Nick Clydesdale in the pits, but getting some repairs right now after this earlier incident. As we take a look at the iRacing Designs replay, and straight into the wall and copying a bit of damage on both ends of that vehicle. So no doubt will have received the meatball, and it doesn't look terrible, but I suspect there's probably a bit of suspension damage perhaps underneath all of that needs to be seen to. So Clydesdale currently in the pits, has been there for about 2.5 minutes now, so only fairly recent, but he is sitting there and getting some work done before he will be back on track to hopefully see the checkered flag later on in this race. William Jensen continues to just tolerate pressure at the moment from Reece Wakefield. It's something that we speak about often when we're here in the comms booth. You know, it's one thing to be a fast driver on the attack, but good defensive driving is such an art form in itself. And Liam Jensen being put to the test on that at the moment. Reece Wakefield is throwing all sorts of moves at him just to see if he can get him to just come unstuck at all in any sort of way. But Liam Jensen just sticking to his lines. As we see a change in the lead, Williams all of a sudden pokes his nose ahead of Curry, finds himself on the inside of the corner now. Can Curry go over under here? He can't. Aiden Williams protects the line beautifully. Keep an eye on Jeremy Washington right behind, though. The battle for the lead here heating up. Curry late on the brakes, right up behind the Porsche of FCR SimSport. And Jeremy Washington sticking right in there as well. So these three come down to the chicane once more. And yeah, Williams, look, he's found his way through to the front, which is not a bad set of moves at all. Up 4 positions from where he started this race. Jeremy Washington, though, still sticking with it. Mitch Curry has been out in front for a long time this race and has been enjoying the benefits of that reverse top 10. It's now all on him to hold on to this podium spot, because Washington will be looking to get past him as soon as he possibly can as well. He won't want Aiden Williams to get too far away.
Lane now.
And Curry comes into the lane, so it's now on Jeremy Washington to chase down Aiden Williams. Mick Polly moves up into 3rd position, but keep an eye on Liam Jensen and Reece Wakefield right behind as they both head towards the front end of this field as we reach almost the halfway point of race number 2 here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to see that. I wonder if actually leading up to the pass for the lead between Aiden Williams and Mitch Curry, there was a little bit of lap traffic that was getting in close quarters towards that section of the track, turn 7, 8, and 9. There was a bit of one of the silver Porsches that was kind of being caught up as a lap traffic. Maybe that would have had a little bit of an effect on potentially Mitch Curry missing at the breaking point here at turn 7 at Tosa, and maybe losing all that momentum towards Aiden Williams, who's now inherited the lead as such. No, it actually didn't look like it. I feel like it looked
wide on the exit.
Yeah, I was just about to note that there. He actually did run wide on the exit, so bit of a Delta driver error, and he couldn't get the over and under, couldn't get the switchback move, and very good car placement by Aiden Williams in the car 95, who leads the race on lap 14 of 30. Some great action here as we look to one of our main contenders here, Daniel McCraw, down well down the order, sadly, and this is an incident that he's done through Tosa on the previous lap there, just dropping it on, putting in too much throttle, and that's the car looped around, and that's see you later. Sadly for him, it's just been a day to forget. He had a very strong sprint race, but down in 14 places, Daniel McCraw for Team Max Boost, and it's definitely not where he wanted to be in this race.
I do wonder, because that did look like the same corner that Curry ran wide on. I do wonder if maybe there's a bit of debris on the track there or something similar that's just had those drivers struggling to find traction. It's a bit unusual at this point in the race for that sort of incident to be happening just from a loss of traction without some sort of outside influence. You can certainly see there's plenty of debris scattered around the track already from a number of offs that have happened. Right now, after Aiden Williams is coming for his pit stop, Jeremy Washington in front. Oh, big moment. Liam Jensen finds himself out wide, just pushing limits to try and find his way past. But Reece Wakefield,
he was trying to get past Mick Poley and through 5 and 6, and he just got caught up by how slow that Porsche was, and then he lost that position to Reece Wakefield, and now brings himself up into P3, but is now looking to try and make that P2 as they go through Aqua Minerale, a fast section of double right-handers. Late on the brakes there, set yourself up for up the rise, up the hill, and heading towards Aqua Variante Alta in 14 and 15 is very close there. It was looking to send the move inside, but you can't really send the move through 14 and 15. It's such a tight chicane there for the drivers to execute, but you can get a good run. You can definitely set yourself up for an inside move down Rivarza 16 as they go through under the bridge down to 17 and 18. Shows the nose a bit of a different altering of racing lines there between Mick Poley and Reese Wakefield, and down the front straight they go down the pit track. Will any of these drivers come to the pit lane? Yes, you do see Liam Jensen coming into the pit lane. I want to keep my eyes on the drivers that actually came into the pit lane previously. We had Aiden Williams and Mitch Curry. They were the first two drivers, leading drivers, that came into the pit lane. They are down in 21st and 23rd respectively. It's good to see that they're still holding position. There's not much gain there, so you can see Reese Wakefield really capitalising on Mick Poley's sliding moments through turns 2, 3 and 4, and finally gets past the Porsches that he's been behind for the majority of the race, has now finally cleared all the Porsches, and now can set his eyes forward on Jeremy Washington before they come into the pit lane.
Yeah, well, this battle has absolutely cost him though. All of a sudden Washington's got himself an almost 4-second lead, which is not a small deficit by any means. So Wakewood's going to have to really put the foot down if he wants to close that in. And he is starting to extend already the gap to Poley behind him. But we'll keep an eye on that gap. Further back through the field, Simon Caplett now caught in behind Aiden Williams. Williams, of course, having come in for his pit stop. So on fresher tyres than Caplett will be. But it's a question of whether or not Williams has got a little bit more pace up his sleeve. Liam Jensen right behind as well is fresh off his pit stop, so I suspect that Caplett's actually probably in a losing position here. He hasn't come in for a pit stop since lap 1, and of course that would have been primarily for repairs after that first lap incident that saw so many drivers have to come in for those repairs. Realistically, Aiden Williams leading this race when you consider pit stops having been made. Liam Jensen currently in an effective second position, and Mitch Curry effectively in third position. You can see him just off the back of this battle here. So Brad Cooper comes in up in P4. Look, there's been a lot of moves, and obviously still a long way to go. Still a few pit stops to play out. It's a little early to call it, but Aiden Williams, you've got to say, setting himself up very, very well for the finish of this race at this stage.
Putting the move is going to be Liam Jensen on Simon Caplett. Very nicely moved. Nice move down at Rivarza. But I was going to say that Jensen actually gained a position on Mitch Curry in the pit lane. So he actually jumped him in the pit lane and puts himself in effective P2 in this race. But we also have to keep an eye out on those main drivers. Jeremy Washington, Reese Wakefield. I wonder if these guys are going to be in for the long haul. I wonder if they're going to start putting in fastest laps and really trying to stretch their margins. We see one of the Mustangs try to get out of the way of Liam Jensen there. Such an awkward corner there. Mitch Curry gets caught up by his fellow Mustang driver. And that is going to allow Brad Cooper an opportunity to try and go for an inside move through Variante Villeneuve. Can't set the car up just yet, but that is a costly mistake there that has hampered Mitch Curry's progress to catch up to the back of Liam Jensen, who has already come into the pit lane, effectively sitting in P3 at the moment, but that mistake by lap traffic is going to cost him quite dear.
Yeah, not what you love to see, but it is unfortunately one of the dangers. As you make your way through a field of this size, inevitably you are going to come up against lap traffic, be it from incidents or just by nature of pit stops and how they work out. Mitch Curry did a phenomenal job to actually pull it up there and not run into the back of that on the Mustang. I think it might have been, and we'll take a look, Martin Lipsky, who unfortunately well off the pace, has found himself right in front of Mitch Curry. As we see Danny McBride doing his best to make his way back up towards the front of the field, but those couple of issues that he's had along the way, finding back in P24 right now. Starting to see a few pit stops happening in that top 10. So Henry King's in as Daniel Harrod, Ian Ward's coming, Chris Bleakley as well. So yeah, quite a changing of the guard coming. Keep an eye on Aiden Williams. You can see he's already coming past all of those drivers. So we talk about him being the effective leader right now. Everyone that comes into the pits, he's going to be passing as he makes his way down the straight. Liam Jensen, about a second and a half on, you can see that the electrical Porsche not too far back has also made his pit stop, so he'll be sitting effectively in second. And Luke Patton just ahead of Aiden Williams right now, yet to make his stop. So this is effectively where the front end of the race is right now, even though it doesn't put it in your timing tower at the moment. As we see Williams going on through, I think Patton just getting out of the way there and recognising that it is a much faster driver coming through Jeremy Washington, interestingly though, well out in front, although that is coming down. And you can see we were talking about an almost 4-second gap. Reece Wakefield's closed that down to about 2.5 seconds. And Jeremy Washington comes into the pits now. Reece Wakefield follows him immediately, as does Mick Poley. So the front three all coming into the pit stops. This will be interesting. Keep an eye on Aiden Williams. And in fact, let's go on board and see if we can get a bit of a view as we run down towards that start-finish straight.
I was going to say, on the previous lap, Reece Wakefield set the fastest lap with a 1 minute 41.861, so you could definitely tell he was pushing that car to the absolute limit to close up on Jeremy Washington. And with those fastest lap getting 10th on the reigning champion in Jeremy Washington has actually closed that gap so much. But as we see Aiden Williams going onto the main straight right now, where are those drivers? Where is Jeremy Washington? He's actually come out of the pit lane, and so has Reece Wakefield has come out of the pit lane. So what is this going to mean? We can see them on the exit there. So Aiden Williams is going to be catching up towards the back of Mick Poley. Makes the move on the Porsche driver, but he has lost time to the two contenders in this championship. Jeremy Washington and Reece Wakefield have played the overcut strategy to absolute perfection, hold the net race lead of P1 and P2. But that is a huge loss for Aiden Williams to be down in P3 as he was initially leading this race early on before the pit stops. What a huge change of events there, that the overcut between the two drivers has worked in the hands of Jeremy Washington and Reece Wakefield. Wow.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out for the rest of the race here. Obviously, as the fuel loads come down, these cars are going to get ever so slightly quicker. But Jeremy Washington extending right through has allowed him to take a much quicker stop than a lot of the other drivers. He only spent just over 17 seconds in the pit box. Now you compare that to Aiden Williams, he was there for just under 22 seconds. So a really significant difference, and that's allowed Jeremy Washington to stay out in front and quite comfortably as well, because the gap back to Reece Wakefield is now back out to just over 4 seconds. And in fact, Wakefield finds himself stuck at the moment behind Dean Powell in the Black Hawk Motorsports Mustang. So he's going to have to get a move on. He'll be hoping that the Mustang does head in for a pit stop on this
soon enough.
Doesn't look like it though, although Dean Powell moves over. And probably a wise choice, because you don't want Wakefield breathing down your neck for much longer than you need to. Aiden Williams though, you can see not too far off the back. But he'll have to negotiate Dean Powell through a much trickier section of the track if he does catch up. So Wakefield really maximising the opportunity to get that pass done on the start of the main straight. And he'll be head down, bum up, trying to reel in Jeremy Washington again. He's already done it once. We saw him bring it down from 4 seconds to about 2.5. The gap is back out to 4.5. So Reece Wakefield finds himself with about 10 laps. He's going to have to close almost half a second of lap, if my maths is any good. So we'll keep an eye on that.
10.5 laps to go until the end of this race. Can Reece Wakefield close the gap to Jeremy Washington, or can Jeremy Washington hold on to this advantage and take his first victory in Season 3 of 2025? We'll wait and see. But as we go through the field, the top three are yet to make their pit stops. Aaron Schotter, Scott Stevens and Lachlan Burke, our top three runners at the moment. As we see a nice move there, a nice defensive move there by Mick Poley, trying to defend from Liam Jensen, but sadly that battle has come to an end, as he's going to have the inside move as they come towards the Variante Alta 14 and 15 chicane, and a nice move there by Liam Jensen, going side by side through Aqua Minerale. I don't think I've ever seen cars go side by side at high speeds in the GT3 car, so fair play to the Porsche drivers to making that move happen, as we have a lap traffic getting out of the way very respectively there. But Liam Jensen
in a lot of trouble actually. It's not moving. I'm not sure who that was. I'm trying to find who that might be. I think it might actually be Caleb Thompson. Let's go back and have a look. It does appear to be. Yeah, it was Caleb Thompson, so he must have just had a huge amount of damage, just wanted to stay right out of the way. But looks to be okay for the moment. Hopefully.
Yeah, and it's good to see some of the drivers as well there. As we go, actually, as we look through some of the names that we have seen in this championship fight, as we see one of the Mustangs run wide there, one of the Fishy Motorsports. Yeah, sadly there. I was going to say that some of the drivers that we have to keep our eyes on as well through progression to see how much they're moving up the field. The one man we have to keep try and talk about, Danny Poulton, up into P25, has now dropped down to P26 behind Ian Ward there in McLaren 720. So he's lost, obviously, after that incident that he had with Ryan Palmer after the safety car restart, has really hampered his progress. He's going to be scoring quite minimum points here, sadly. So he's got a lot to do in this championship fight. But it is a long championship, and there is going to be some endurance racing coming up as well in this MC Motorsport's Domains2U GT3 Championship. So it'll be very hard work for Danny Poulton. It'll be a race to forget for him, sadly. And also for the likes of Ryan Palmer, who was tracking on very nicely there, down in P36 and 22 positions down from his starting position for ADHD Racing, while his teammate up the front in Josh Harris is holding on to P17 at the moment. So a couple of what ifs for some of the drivers there, but at the same time we saw quite a lot of incidents there, and some of those drivers won't be quite happy with what happened in that search. So we might be seeing quite a few heated exchanges maybe in the post debrief after what was a questionable restart in the safety car restart.
Yeah, I do not envy race control at all for the amount of they're going to have to go back to this week. It's going to be very, very busy. As you see, Liam Jensen up the inside of Dean Power gets through, and unfortunately for Polly, he's done a fantastic job to keep the momentum, and he's going to find himself going past Power around the outside. So Jensen and Polly both getting through on Dean Power in the one sequence of corners. Really, really awesome driving there from Mick Polly, because had he not gotten through there, he was going to lose touch with Liam Jensen very quickly. So a fantastic set of moves. Keeps him in contention, and he'll keep moving up through the field with Liam Jensen in the BE Porsche. But the news at the moment, Reece Wakefield starting to close that gap down, now down to just under 3.5 seconds to Jeremy Washington. He's going to want that down
on the
to
previous lap.
Around about, he's pushing, isn't he? 141.96. Just doing some very, very quick top of the head math. We said he was, 4.5 seconds with 10 laps to go. So he's going to want to have that down to around 2.2 with 5 laps to go. So he's going to have to get a move on to get to that mark. But we will keep an eye on it as we get closer and closer to the end of race number 2 here in round 1. Some support for Mick Polly out there in the chat. Always love to see it. Southern Cross Racing guys, very familiar to me from another series that we cover, of course, Simple Racing Broadcast, bringing you the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars series tomorrow night over on the ASR channel. So do make sure you come along and check that out. A number of the Southern Cross Racing team in amongst that as well. I suspect it's the same Southern Cross Racing. If anyone wants to confirm that in the chat to me, that'd be awesome, but I'm just going to assume so at this point. Check out this pack that we've got going on for 22nd right now. So much argy-bargy back here.
You can just tell, like, the action is up and down the field, ladies and gentlemen. You can see the battle pack, the closing battle pack for P, for the P1 spot in the feature race. And then now we're coming down to this pack here, where it's going to be the battle for P23, P22, because we also have Bradley and Mitchell in the P22. Black Hawk Motorsports Mustang is actually leading this pack. Mitch Curry is on the back end of that Ford Mustang. As you can see there, contact between the McLaren and the Porsche. Great save there by the Porsche driver. Nice car control there. Very nicely done to keep that car.
Keep that straight.
My goodness, I do not know, but that was Josh Marsh. Well, that was a very good save there, and for Dan Micro as well to actually hold on to that as well, to not take any more cars out. But just shows that, some battle packs up front, and also you look down the back there, Danny P is going to have to work his magic and have to work all the hype that he's got around him to try and get past this pack and try and get himself at least some decent points to salvage what was unfortunately a damaged race for him in contact with Ryan Palmer after the safety car restart. He's got a lot of work to do now to try and get himself inside that top 20 if he can actually do it with 6 laps to go until the end of this race.
It's a big ask, isn't it, from here as Mitch Curry goes past Bradley Minchell. I think Minchell had a bit of a moment in the last corner, and that's allowed Danny P to catch right up as well. Minchell closes the door on the rest of the pack. Ian Ward and Josh Marsh will have to satisfy themselves with making a move at the next corner. But yeah, this is some phenomenal battling going on at about the midpoint of this pack. I thought they were going to go 3 wide there for a moment. In the end, Minchell sacrificed another couple of spots. Keep an eye on Trev Mortimer from Road Racing Australia. A lot of damage on the front end of that AMG, but that doesn't seem to worry him too much. Minchell into the pits. So these guys continue on their way. Mirko and Hayden, the 2 teammates from Race on Oz, B Electrical and the JTI Race on Oz, right amongst it. Ian Ward now going side by side. Marsh has a big slide on the entry of that corner.
Big slide.
Just pushing the braking a little too hard. And yeah, we see a little bit of action further up through the field. Jeremy Washington, rightly called out by our good friend Monte Cristo. Jeremy Washington and Wood Burke just having a bit of a moment together as well. But of course, keep an eye on Reece Wakefield, because all of a sudden that gap has closed.
He's right there.
up. Yeah, so I wonder if Washington's had just a bit of a moment in amongst getting past Lachlan Burke there. We'll go back and see where that overtake happened.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much the overtake that he's actually made on Lachlan Burke. I think it just might be the cause of lap traffic and maybe just hampering a little bit, maybe losing a few tenths here and there, just trying to overtake some of the lap traffic that he has ahead of him. But at the moment, he doesn't really have anyone in front. There's quite a bit of a gap between himself and one of the drivers ahead. Looks like one of the AMG Mercedes drivers up ahead. So he's got quite a good gap. So do need to come into the pit lane at the moment. So obviously we are missing Scott Stevens, Aaron Schotter, the 2 Mercedes AMG drivers yet to make a pit stop, as well as Lachlan Burke. They're yet to come to the pit lane, so I'm probably sure they're going to be coming in within the last couple of laps, I would say, just to see where they end up at the end of this race. But I feel like just maybe a couple of lap traffic that may have just caused Jeremy Washington to lose a few tenths here and there, and maybe the same's going to be now with Reece Wakefield in the back of Lachlan Burke. How fast can he dispatch the Porsche driver that's sitting up in P4 at the moment? A really nice job there by Lachlan Burke to be up in P4, but also is yet to make a pit stop.
We were saying it was about this point that we want Reece Wakefield to be within about 2.2 seconds of Jeremy Washington to have a hope of catching him. He's got that down to 1.7 right now, so Wakefield absolutely on target. Only 5 laps or thereabouts to go, so Wakefield's certainly looking to catch Washington. I do wonder, like Schotter and Stevens, to be getting to this point and not having pitted, are they just going to run this all the way to the end and hope to make it on fuel? Surely not.
Do we think that's possible?
I can't imagine that it is, unless there's been it's just some amazing calculation and some phenomenal fuel saving along the way. Because the gap that both of those guys have is pretty significant. You know, Schotter's got a 7.5, almost 8 second gap to Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens, again, you can see him just there, 3 seconds ahead of Jeremy Washington. It's a big ask.
It is a big ask, absolutely, but they're not really setting overall some exceptional lap times. You can see there, we can see Aaron Schotter on his last lap. He was setting a 1 minute 43.3, and then we have Scott Stevens a 43.1, where Jeremy Washington was actually the fastest out of the top 5 for 42.3. So he's well over a second faster than he's a second faster than Aaron Schotter, so he's coming. So Jeremy Washington is on the charge, as well as Reece Wakefield down in P5 at 42.5.
Jumping forward with Aaron Schotter at the moment, and look, it does look, if I'm not mistaken, that definitely says fuel low on his on his
and he's
dash.
full revving as well, so he's not fuel saving.
He's not fuel saving. So, geez, this is going to be a very, very interesting turnout. Scott Stevens, much the same. Both of them running very low on fuel at the moment. So you'd have to think they're either expecting to come home on fuel.
There's Schotter in the pit lane now.
Rather.
So Schotter has actually come into the pit lane as we speak.
Has he? Just seen him drop out connection altogether.
Oh, okay.
So we'll take a look and see if we can catch that up.
We'll follow on that very shortly.
I sincerely hope that's not the case.
That would be very cruel
right now. But Scott Stevens continuing. The gap only just under 3 seconds. You can see Jeremy Washington slowly but surely closing him down. Now Scott Stevens has some work to do here if he's going to make it home on its technical fuel. Look, if he does, it'll be a phenomenal effort. Reece Wakefield, just a little further back, has caught up to Lachlan Burke, but still looking for a way past. This is allowing Jeremy Washington. Yeah, well, look at the gap that Jeremy Washington's opened up.
Yeah. So I wonder, on this previous lap, something happened between Lachlan Burke and Reece Wakefield. Now, finally, Reece Wakefield is going to throw the car down the inside. No, he doesn't. So he's actually getting held up massively. And, you know, full respect to Lachlan Burke, he's still fighting this like it's the end of a championship battle here. That is some incredible racing here between the 54 and 969 of the Porsche 992 and the Acura. Going hard on the defense is Lachlan Burke here. So I wonder if Lachlan Burke is actually a driver that's going to take it to the end of this race if he's actually going so defensive with his car, because you can see the gap there. Jeremy Washington has said goodbye to Reece Wakefield.
Jeez, and you know, we spoke about this earlier. We mentioned the difference that a really top defensive driver can make.
Always run wide. It's through Ravazza.
He's even if he was to lose his position to Reece Wakefield, he has put on an absolute masterclass in defending, because he has, despite running some fairly slow laps, he has not allowed Wakefield through, and I haven't seen anything from him that you'd consider anything less than just solid defensive driving. He's not been blocking, he's not been doing anything unsportsmanlike. He has just been making it incredibly difficult. That Porsche right now is about 3 times wider.
Who this is benefiting the most? That's his teammate right behind, Aiden Williams. Aiden Williams has closed up so dramatically to the back of Reece Wakefield that his teammate in Lachlan Burke has actually really helped Aiden Williams close up massively. Reece Wakefield trying to go around the outside through Tosa, runs it wide onto the curbing. Contact mate, and he's actually gone into the wall. And that is the race ending there for Reece Wakefield. Thankfully just loses one position, but is there damage on that Acura NSX? And then the other Porsche of Liam Jensen is going to come through. Oh, I wonder if that was a little bit too aggressive there by Reece Wakefield, a little bit hot-headed underneath the race helmet there for Reece Wakefield, just being impatient, Jared, unfortunately, and that has cost him 2 positions there and the chance to take that top step.
Yeah, look, I can understand why he was getting frustrated being caught behind Burke for so long. But yeah, he's thrown away a good number of points there. He's going to have to really work to get him back. Teltron was asking in the chat about the pit stops, and you can see on the screen there all of these drivers having made their stop, but Scott Stevens and Lachlan Burke making their stop on lap 1. Now, I'm not entirely sure whether either of those stops were to repair damage from that lap 1 incident, or whether they were actually strategic stops to fill the car up. And the more I think about it, I'm going to have to go and have a bit of a look, I think, at the setup for these cars, because I do wonder if the starting fuel was limited, but these drivers have gone in and made a stop to fill the car under safety car, and that's what's going to get them all the way at the end. Is that the masterstroke of strategy that Scott Stevens has played here, as he looks more and more likely at this point to bring home a win?
Well, 1.5, 1.6 now between Scott Stevens and Jeremy Washington. And if this turns out to be a victory, potential victory for Scott Stevens, 28 positions gained since the start of this race. I've never seen or heard so many positions gained in a sim racing event where someone can actually gain so much track position and potentially take the checkered flag. But the gap is coming down quite slowly there. Jeremy Washington is going to have to use all of his strength and use all of his racecraft to try and close up as much as he can, because he's only going to have one more lap to go until the end of this race to try and mount any charge on the Mercedes driver. And who would have thought that, you know, it's a masterstroke. It could definitely be a masterstroke. I can't remember if Scott Stevens and Lachlan Burke were caught up in that lap 1 incident at turns 2, 3 and 4 through the chicane. I'm not so sure, but if they weren't and they took advantage of the safety car, put fuel in the car and just run to the end on dead tires and and a lot of fuel conservation. It's a master stroke there. We have approached the final lap now. It is Scott Stevens ahead of Jeremy Washington. He's actually gained time there, 1.8 seconds. The last time I saw it was 0.5, so he's gained time on Jeremy Washington. And there's going to be close quarters here, because I wonder if the fuel, it might be having a bit of a factor here towards the end there. You can just see the grip advantage that Jeremy Washington's got through turns 2, 3, and 4. Coming up to Variante Villeneuve for the last time, we can see Stevens runs wide onto the gravel trap there, loses the car there through Tosa, so a little bit unnervy there on the brakes there, but gets out of Tosa nicely there on the power. He goes up towards the rise of the hill there, towards turns 8 and Piratella, and then down through Aqua Minerale. It's all single file racing here, so there's limited opportunities for Jeremy Washington to go for the move. But it is 1.1 seconds now, so that gap is coming down, and we are on the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. Mercedes AMG versus McLaren 720, as we have a car off the background there. But this is going to get right up towards the end there. 1 second now. The gap is closing. Jeremy Washington really throwing the McLaren towards the sausage curves there through the chicane there, through Variante Alta. But there's one more opportunity there, but I don't think it's going to be enough, Jared. And I think we are going to see the hoist of all hoists here. The master plan has worked in the favour of the Mercedes AMG driver, and it is Scott Stevens that is going to be rounding up the final corner and taking the checkered flag for the feature race for round 1 of the MC Motorsports Domains2U GT3 Championship. What a masterstroke that was. What a race by the AMG driver, and what a race victory for his team, and what a victory for the racing community there. Never give up. Show your true colours and show your pride, and
side
that's what you get.
At the line, Reese Wakefield takes Lachlan Burke by 1,000th of a second.
Wow.
What a finish there for P5. So Wakefield salvages that. Aaron Gilbert further back taking P10 as well. We've got Wiley Blair has just had a bit of a moment, and he's given up that position to Mitch Curry. So they'll be battling it out towards the line as they come around the final turn. Mitch Curry, though, still holding his position in P20, and Wiley going into the pits. So whether there's a penalty to serve there or something that I'm not aware of. But have a look at this battle coming down to the wire. Further back, Josh Marsh and Luke Hyden. A big moment. Luke Hyden goes sideways in the background. Ends up off in the sand. So Dan Mirko looks like he will be finishing ahead of Josh Marsh. And just a phenomenal finish for a lot of these drivers further back through the field. As we see Minshall side by side with Daniel Harrod. The two Mustangs are going to put the foot down the main straight. I think Minshall might just get this, although Harrod's got the inside line. He's trying to use all of it. This is going to be close as well. 6 thousandths.
6 thousandths of a second there.
6, and Minshall holds it. A couple of very, very close finishes further back through the field. I tell you what, it's not just about the front end of this field. It's happened right throughout. But tonight it has been all Scott Stevens as the HJR Jinx Shifters AMG makes its way around, and that has been an absolutely phenomenal drive from the number 51 entry. Scott Stevens, I've been thinking about this the whole way through. The only thing I can think is that there was just too many laps here for these guys to make it on a full tank of fuel, because there's no fuel tank limitation here tonight. So it says to me that these guys made the right call, pitting in and topping off the tanks. That was just enough to get him home. But he's got enough left in the tank here to put on a show for us. And I tell you what, don't I appreciate that. The AMG showing us how it's done, using up the last of the tyres and probably the last of the fuel in the tank there for Scott Stevens. A well-deserved celebration after a phenomenal drive. And that's a strategic victory, no doubt about it.
That was.
It's not about being the fastest on track. In fact, his best lap here, 1:42.65. It's not slow by any means, but definitely not the fastest in the field here in race 2. What a drive from Scott Stevens.
Absolutely, a fantastic drive there, and I'm going to call victory for the racing community here, ladies and gentlemen. MC Motorsports. That's someone. This is a drive that you just never give up. You go for the strategy from lap 1 onwards. Obviously, we'll get him into the com box for an interview very shortly, but I just can't wait to hear what the strategy was, because if that was a lap 1 masterstroke coming into the pit lane behind safety car and managing the fuel and the tyres towards the end there, I've got to give my hats off to him as one of the best victories that I've seen here in the MC Motorsports championships that I've actually called. So 28 positions gained as well for Scott Stevens in the 51 Mercedes. That is absolutely incredible. Jeremy Washington rounds up in position 2 for JW Racing, looking to be taking that championship lead at the end of round 1, finishing in finishing in P4 and in the sprint race, and P2 in the feature race, as well as Reese Wakefield down in P5. So going to be very close between Jeremy Washington and Reese Wakefield as we get those points tallied up towards the end of the session. But Scott Stevens, well done. That is an absolute fantastic victory there. A fantastic victory there by the HJ&R Jinx Shifters Mercedes AMG team. Jeremy Washington for JW Racing in position 2. Aidan Williams for FCR Sim Sport rounding up the podium with the rest of the field. Liam Jensen, a very strong performance there by Liam Jensen there, one of the veterans of MC Motorsports, putting on a show in P4. Reese Wakefield just taking that P5 away from Lachlan Burke by 0.001 of a second between the two drivers. So close between them. Lachlan Burke down in P6. Mick Poley, Brad Cooper, Dean Powell and Aaron Gilbert rounding up our top 10 with Luke Patton, Simon Kapler, Daniel McCron, James Salhini, Josh Harris, James Bunker, Henry King and Chris Bickley rounding up our 11 to 18 drivers. Some very close racing amongst the field as we go over to the next page. It is Danny Poulton, so the man that got caught up on the safety car restart with contact with Ryan Palmer does get it into the top 20, so that could be some handy points for the man in that is Danny P, the car 970 Acura NSX in 19th, with Mitch Curry rounding up the top 20. Ian Ward, Josh Bernard, Dylan Thomas, Dan Micro, Josh Marsh, Trev Mortimer, Daniel Harold, Ryan Palmer, Aaron James and Dean Jacobson rounding up our 20 to 30 drivers on the list here. Willie Blair, Bradley Minshall, Luke Hayden, Charlie Milken, Jamie Taylor, Caleb Thompson, who we saw there on the couple of laps ago with losing pretty much all the panels on his Porsche, sadly for him down the order there. And then as we see Martin Lipsky, Ronald Long, Nick Clydesdale. We have a lot of fan support there for Nick Clydesdale in the Soul Chevrolet Corvette in the 111 down in 39th place. Aaron Schotter, Patrick Frame, Lee Cadolis, James Lawrence, Nathan Allen and Pete Minute, our safety car drivers down there in 44th and 45th position. And unfortunately the DNS in Nathan Bowman sadly not participating in this race. But wow, there's a lot to dissect here, Jared, and my goodness, this is going to be quite the interview if we can get one of the top three in the podiums into the com box, because I can't wait to hear.
Let's start it off with tonight's winner, Scott Stevens. Scott, welcome to the comms booth. Mate, what a phenomenal drive. Congratulations on the win here in race number 2 for round 1 of the Domains2U GT3 Championship.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm stoked. I was just saying to Jeremy that I saw he got in front of, I think it was Lachlan. I was just like, oh, here we go. I was just watching the times kind of come down. I'm like, please hold him off, come on. And then I didn't really glance down at what position I was even in. And then I glanced down crossing the line thinking, oh yeah, cool, second. What was the gap to Jeremy? And then I've seen a 1 next to my name. I was like, what happened to Aaron? Yeah, awesome race. Stoked, unexpected.
Take the win where you find it. We did see Aaron Schotter disappear from the race, and I can only imagine some connection issues that have unfortunately taken him out. Such is life, I suppose, in sim racing. But mate, we were sitting there scratching our heads for the last 10 laps trying to decide on when you were coming in for fuel, because everyone else made their pit stops around the halfway mark. Your stop on lap 1, take us back to it. Was that actually repairing any damage from that lap 1 incident, or was that the strategy tonight to fuel up early and have enough to just make it home?
It was pure strategy, and not something we'd thought out before the race, but when the safety car got called, myself, Aaron, and Henry were kind of humming and ahhing about it, and I kind of thought, hang on, this is a free pit stop. It would have been counteractive if there was another safety car, but that's the risk that you take. So took the risk, filled it to the brim, because I didn't actually have fuel numbers for the second race. Filled it to the brim, and just plugged away, lap after lap, and consistent lap times. Stayed out of trouble, and then kind of thought, I'd started like well back anyway, so to me, anywhere in the top 10 was going to be a mega finish. But yeah, coming out on the top step was pretty freaking awesome. I can tell
Scott, it's Nick here. I was just gonna say, like, this victory here, I don't know if you heard it in the background, but I've said to Jared that I'm calling this a community victory, that you've won it against the big boys here tonight, the likes of Jeremy Washington, Reese Wakefield, Danny P. You've got all these contenders that could be in contention for this championship fight for season 3, and you've definitely put yourself up high up in the field there. 28 positions gained from the start of that race. So obviously going through all that carnage, you got to take us back through it, because that's where the accident happened. From your position down there in 29th, where you saw that accident happening, what was it like? Because obviously I'm not familiar with this kind of platform here in the iRacing world. Is it very close? Is it very hard to navigate through crash cars, like through the sim? Is it like something that you have to be really careful with? Do you have any Is there like any spotters or something that goes through on the headsets about accidents ahead? I've heard of something about spotting accidents, but how was it for you with negotiating through all that carnage on that opening lap?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think it can be pretty hit and miss, to be honest. So, what I mean by that is, I know that there was guys in front of me who didn't react, I guess, quick enough to the situation that was in front of them, whereas I guess where I was on track gave me enough time to, okay, I want to look up the road. I know at that particular corner, generally you're either going to have a car on the inside or on the very outside, but potentially coming back to the other side of the track. And you kind of almost want to keep your car central down that lane coming out of, like, must be turn 3 down to 4, 5, especially when there's an incident, to give yourself room to go either way. And kind of like, to be honest, the seas kind of parted for me. I think I just got a bit of good luck with it. And cars in front of me kind of just went either side. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go down the guts of it. And got through unscathed. Spotter was good in terms of, I just use the iRacing spotter these days. I think they've done massive improvements to the platform with that side of things. And it gave me plenty of notice. Didn't tell me which way to go. Not that I really listened to it anyway. I tend to try and make up my own mind on what way I want to go. This time around it worked out well, and straight through unscathed and kept going.
I really appreciate hearing someone
that's really good to hear as well. I was going to say, obviously, one more before we move on to probably our next interviewee. What are your thoughts on that safety car restart? It looked like it was being held up right up towards the start-finish line there. I'm sure there was a whole concertina effect that would have been happening on the back of the field there, and you probably would have been caught up in some of that. Yeah,
there was, and looking back at the race regulations or brief for this track, the go zone was literally just after turn 1, so we weren't really 100% sure what was going on. And do you run the risk and try and just go and jump on everybody and then get pinged for it because you've gone in the start zone but the rest of the field hasn't? So take, I guess, the cautious approach and just follow everyone else to a point, and get going. But maybe something that needed to be looked into for future rounds, about making sure there's clarity on who can go if the leader doesn't go, and is it up to the leader to set that mark, or are we actually going by the driver's briefing of each track of where the go point is? Because I'm pretty sure it was highlighted in green after turn 1. So, after the last turn. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of that, I guess.
Well, look, can't argue with what's come out of for you tonight here, Scott. Taking the victory, I noticed, I think it's Aaron Schotter that's just popped into the YouTube chat with well, that was upsetting. So I suspect that has been a bit of a network failure that's taken him out of it, but it's resulted in the win for you. And look, even if it hadn't, mate, it would have been a well-deserved P2. But as it stands, taking the win in the feature tonight, a phenomenal start to the season for you. And best of luck for the rest of the season. Hoping we get a chance to chat to you again. Congratulations again, though, on your win here in race 2 of round 1.
Thank you, guys, and big shout out to our team sponsors: Jinx Shifters, Titan Suspension, Wilson Industrial. They help us out a lot. So also teammates Henry and Aaron, and the support throughout the race and the strategy, etc. And looking forward to the next rounds, and of course going back and watching the broadcast tonight. So that'll be good to watch. So thanks, fellas, appreciate it.
I appreciate you putting on a good smoke show afterwards, mate. Enjoy it. Go celebrate with the team. We will chat to you soon, I'm sure.
On, mate.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it, Tom.
Scott Stevens, your winner there in race number 2. We'll bring into the booth now Jeremy Washington. P2 tonight, Jeremy. Welcome back to the booth, first of all. It's been a little while since we last got to speak to you after taking out the championship in Season 2.
Thanks, Jared. It's nice to be back on the podium for once.
Yeah, and look, mate, we were watching you battle it out right through there. A phenomenal drive all around. We saw you come out ahead after your pit stop and maintain that. And in fact, we were basically calling you the effective leader right through to the death when we realised, hang on, Scott Stevens might actually make it to the end on the fuel he's got. Tell us what was going through your head as you tried to chase him down.
I kind of figured he had enough range, and his pace looked pretty good. Like I could see him pumping a PB when he needed to keep it to keep ahead of me, and it was a pretty big gap. So I wasn't completely confident, but I wanted to put pressure on just in case he was trying to save fuel. And unfortunately, Aaron dropped out, so it sort of raised the stakes a bit. And I didn't think I'd ever get him on pace, but I wanted to put him under a bit of pressure if I could.
Well, look, closing it down to within a second, not a bad way to go. Hey, look, wanted to get your thoughts. Obviously, a whole new season, a brand new field, and a massive field at that. I think we ended up with, 44 drivers starting race 1 tonight. So a massive, massive field of cars out on track. Talk us through your thoughts on the opening round of Season 3 here in the Domains2U GT3 Championship.
I think it was awesome to have a grid that large. It really adds to, I think, the pressure. You can't make a mistake in qualifying. You'll be down in 30th or something and you have no chance. So it's really exciting to have a big grid like this. And the racing at the front was very quick. So it's going to be a very tough season, I think. The Acuras look very quick, that Antic Racing team with Danny and Reese.
I was going to mention some of the Antic Motorsports, the Acuras that are actually involved here. The top 3 in that sprint race was all covered by the Acuras. So I wonder, obviously going through that pre-season testing and, you coming up with some mates and coming up with some tactics, we see quite a healthy mix of Ford Mustangs, McLarens, and obviously, of course, the Acuras as well. But I'm surprised that there's actually quite a few manufacturers that have been overlooked there. So obviously we see the likes of what was a dominant car in Season 1, the Ferrari 296 was quite a strong car. A couple of the Chevrolet Corvettes was up there as well. So is this just something that you look at the calendar and you realize to yourself that these are just not the cars that's not going to work around this track? Or do you just kind of look at it as just like an overall performance that you think that the Ferrari is not the best car for the season?
I think it's a bit of both. I think, there'll be a bunch of people that'll go for maybe what they think will be the quickest. You know, the Acura and the Porsche, I think, will be pretty much up there every round. For me, it was more about just wanted something different, and still wanted a mid-engine car, so went with the McLaren, and hopefully it'll work out for me. But it would be nice to. There wasn't a lot of different manufacturers in the top 10. I think it felt very Porsche and Acura heavy, so hopefully different tracks will give us a bit of a different mix-up, but I think they'll be quick every round, unfortunately.
Well, we've got a few rounds ahead of us yet to decide just which the balance of performance favours, I suppose, for the rest of this season. But as it stands, an awesome start to the season for you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for dropping by to have a chat to us, and congratulations on P2 here tonight in the feature race. Mate, of all the tracks ahead of us, just as a last question before we send you on your way to celebrate, have you got a particular favourite in mind that's ahead of us? What are you looking forward to the most out of these races?
Coming up, I'm looking forward to Spa, and I think Daytona with the Enduro should be good fun as well.
All right, well, no pressure, but we'll keep a very close eye on you for those couple, eh? See how you go.
Yeah, thanks, guys, and cheers for the stream as ever. It looked great.
Too easy. Jeremy, thank you so much, and congratulations once again.
Congrats, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys.
Jeremy Washington taking P2 there in the feature. Spud, Nick Patasso, it's been a hell of an evening of racing. I've got to ask, of all of the performances you saw out there tonight, the one that stood out to you as the most impressive?
I think if you have to look overall between the sprint and the feature race, I think I can't look past the reigning champion in Jeremy Washington. Like, there was such good performances there, a close qualifying that only separated by 0.03 of a second between the top three, but also as well you have to consider the fact that Reese Wakefield, Danny P are the strong contenders for what is going to be a very close championship here in season 3. But if I'm looking back at the race overall in this, especially this feature race, I can't get my eyes off Scott Polton. Scott Stevens up in position 1. That he just did so well there. The car, a car that really shouldn't really be in that field. That it's not quite a strong car, the Mercedes AMG, compared to what we're seeing with the MR style cars with the Porsche, Acura, and the McLaren being heavily dominant in this field. But at the same time, Scott Stevens has pulled off a strategy masterclass to get that P1. I can't keep my eyes off him. And if it's a driver of the day. For the race itself, I'd definitely have to go to Scott Stevens there. But I think overall, for the driver of the day, between the sprint and feature, I can't look past Jeremy Washington, and that was such a great performance there. But it doesn't mean that everyone else, like up and down the field, there's a lot of contention as well for driver of the day. As well, that we see some great drives by most of our drivers there. Lachlan Burke is another driver that I was really impressed with as well in the FCR Sim Sport, helping his teammate get up into P3 in the feature race there. So I was very ashamed not to have a chat with Aidan Williams to see what the tactics was going to be between himself and Lockie Burke in 3rd and 6th place. But another solid performance there by the FCR Sim Sport Porsches in Aidan Williams and Lachlan Burke. But overall, it's hard to look because there's 44 drivers, Jared. You could be looking at driver. You have to give like multiple driver of the days between maybe the top 10, the 10 to 11 to 20, maybe 21 to 30, 31 to 40. There has to be a driver of the day for each category.
Nick, you're giving us more work to do here, mate. I'm not sure I like where this is heading. Look, I'm gonna agree with you. I think the drive from Scott Stevens in the feature race was absolutely phenomenal, but for sheer consistency, my driver of the day is going to be Jeremy Washington, really showing why he took the championship last season. Super consistent across both of the races here tonight, and so for that reason I'm going to award Jeremy Washington, the Simple Racing Broadcast, a driver of the day, but honourable mention to Scott Stevens for a phenomenal second race there. That is all we have time for tonight. Nick Patasso, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you in the booth with me. We do look forward to seeing you back here again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to the next round in this championship. It's going to be exciting. I look forward to being able to jump into the combox as much as I can, as obviously coming into the commentary booth to commentate alongside yourself, Jared, with the excellent presentation that you have brought to the MC Motorsports, as well as the Simple Racing Broadcast YouTube channel, to display everything that you have here and being able to show off your expertise when it comes to broadcasting is absolutely amazing. And it's great to see that all of the drivers and all come back, watch the broadcast and see the top quality images that you're able to display on the World Wide Web on the YouTube platform. So your work is very, very, doesn't go unrecognized, and it's really good to always jump back into the com box with you when I can, potentially, as I have a couple of Mondays off for myself, and I'm really excited for the next round at Zolder. For is going to be an exciting round 2 on April 14th of 2025. So mark that on your calendar, ladies and gentlemen. Circuit the Zolder. It's going to be an exciting round, exciting race. 18 laps for race 1, 36 for race 2. Looking forward to it, and that's going to be another spicy track where overtaking is going to be quite tricky as well.
Absolutely will be. So stay tuned for all of that. If you haven't already, please do make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the racing action. And tune in tomorrow night. If you go to the Simple Racing Broadcasts YouTube channel homepage, you'll see a link there to the Alliance Sim Racing channel. Tomorrow night, we bring you yet another round of Gen 3 supercar action over there. So make sure you don't miss out on any of the racing this week. Keep yourselves occupied each evening as we bring you more and more iRacing content across a number of leagues, with some more in the works. So do stay tuned for all of that. It's been an absolute pleasure as always to have you here on behalf of everyone at Simple Racing Broadcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and a massive shout out to all of the sponsors, of course, making it tonight's Domains2U GT3 Championship possible. Of course, domains2u.com.au, the primary sponsor here this evening, but massive shout out, of course, to Sixpence Coffee, to iRap Racing, to iRap Designs, to Everything Simulated, and to Maximum Effort Racing for their support as well. To MC Motorsport, of course, thank you so much for getting us involved and allowing us to bring you all of these images. And most importantly, to everybody watching at home, we hope you've enjoyed the coverage. Thank you so much for being with us. Until next time, it is goodbye for now.